All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Moran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Moran Motoring YouTube channel. I hope you're all having a great weekend and had a great week here. And thank you all so much for joining in. So like all the usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours. I'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green icons there for the usernames. And if you'd like to become a member and also get that priority answering, there's always a join button there in the description of the video. And so, yeah, get right into it. I see we already got a bunch of great questions. I also will mention that Beth will not be making an appearance tonight. She's going to take this one off, but she'll be back soon for another one in the future. But so anyway, I see Jorge has the first question here. He says, just watched a review of the ND2 Cup car. It makes me wonder if there is a business case for a third-party OEM to collaborate on an ND4 and get a super rigid hardtop only model out of the deal. Thoughts? That's a good idea, and it's kind of surprising. I mean, I guess with Fiat, it made sense to bring back the Spider since that's what they're famous for. But I think that'd be a really cool new direction. Is having Mazda, they could still have the RF version since it opens up, but then have a super rigid version. That's a cool idea. I mean, Mazda obviously was open to a partnership there with Fiat, and I'm sure Mazda probably wouldn't be opposed to another partnership in the future. So I think that is certainly a good idea. I mean, obviously we could all speculate about, what brands might want to partner up with them on that. But, also we could see, like, for example, if, Toyota and Subaru part ways, maybe, Subaru wants to keep it going, but Toyota wants to do their own thing. Subaru and Mazda partnering up, Subaru gets a new BRZ out of it since they are very similar in their ethos and all that. Although I'm sure Mazda would not give up their engine and Subaru would give up theirs either. So anyway, I won't try and, spin another yarn here, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea, and we will see what Mazda has up their sleeve for the NE or whatever, because I think doing it this late in the game for an ND4 I think would be hard to maybe get back their money with just maybe a few years left to go. But if they do it for a whole new next generation, I think that would make probably more sense in my opinion. But great question, Jorge, and thanks so much for joining in. And Jordan says, so here for this chat, with Ford charging upwards of $800 for safety features, do you think that incentive is going towards future self-driving tech? I mean, I think as far as, obviously Ford's probably trying to, get the most they can out of that to, put towards future tech. But I think Ford's doing pretty good as far as being ahead of the curve, with Blue Cruise. I mean, really, Super Cruise is the only one that can match it still, even all these years later. And so, I mean, I think the pricing's insane. I certainly am not going to pay it. And for the Mach-E, I think we get 3 years included at that point in time when we got the Mach-E. So, and we have a 4-year lease thing with the Ford options thing. So we will have a year without Blue Cruise, and I'm certainly not going to pay $800 for it. I mean, I would maybe pay like 100 or something, just because we only do maybe one road trip a year in that thing, and maybe that'd be worth $100. Even that would be debatable though, because I love driving myself. It's fun to try, and it is certainly nice to kind of ease some of the miles a little bit there. But yeah, I love driving myself, so I'm certainly not going to pay extra money for that. But yeah, I mean, I think that they're trying to just probably test the market and say, can we get away with charging $800? And then start cutting it down or throwing it in for free if you buy the car, trying to do other things there. But I think they have an uphill battle if they're actually going to stick to that pricing. And thanks so much for joining in, Jordan. Trident Car Guy says, greetings from Arizona. Glad you got to see some nice scenery out here, Matt. Yeah, I was out there in Arizona last week for the GX, and I'm glad some of you enjoyed that video. And yeah, Arizona is a beautiful place. I've always enjoyed it. I've been there a few times in my life, and it's always nice to visit. And Alex says, hey, Matt, hope your weekend's going well. Thank you. It's going great. Hope yours is going well, too. Mike says, Matt, how will Toyota avoid cannibalizing the new 4Runner and Land Cruiser and GX? Seems like there's going to be a lot of overlap. Well, I was kind of wondering about 4Runner and Land Cruiser, but I think that they said Land Cruiser is going to start around 55-ish, or that's what they told us last summer. That could have changed. We'll have to see. But I think that the bottom line is 4Runner is going to have to be cheap. I think that basically what we should expect is a Tacoma with a cab on the back. Obviously a little more than that, but that's basically all you should expect. And if you look at Tacoma pricing, maybe they would charge $1,000 to $2,000 over what you're seeing on Tacoma pricing. And you can max out a Tacoma in the low 50s, and we haven't seen pricing yet for the iForce Max versions and the really high end, TRD Pros and Trail Hunters. Those will probably get more expensive, but as far as the mainstream core ones, even the limited, I think that I think those without the iForce Max are like 52, if I remember correctly. So if Land Cruiser starts at 55, then you have the full gambit of trims for the 4Runner you can run through before you get up to Land Cruiser. And then you have, GX. And so, I think that's how they'll play it. I think Land Cruiser will probably fit 55 to 65, right in that zone. And then you have GX coming in, starting at, 64 to 50, and then, going up from there. So I think it is a little tight, I agree, but I think that there is enough there, especially with how wildly popular all these vehicles are for, Toyota and other brands as well. I mean, I think that there is enough there. Typically, yes, Lexus has more of a buffer, so Land Cruiser starting as high as it is a little surprising. But you have to keep in mind that, again, you're going from maxed out Land Cruiser, probably, I'm guessing, at 65. I could be completely off here, but 65 versus a base GX. So to get a comparable one, if we look at, for example, Grand Highlander and TX, it's, I believe, about a $7,000 or $8,000 upcharge going from a comparable trim to a comparable as far as what you're getting equipment wise in those. And so I think they're kind of holding that because, I think a loaded Land Cruiser would probably get pretty close to at least the premium plus trim of the GX, which, like the ones I was driving, were 71. So if we have loaded Land Cruiser at 65-ish or so, then you're right there. You get, $6,000 or $7,000 premium. I think I can see it working out. I was really wondering for a while too, but I think the bottom line is 4Runner, it just has to be cheap. If for some reason 4Runners 50, 60, then yeah, then it's going to be way too much overlap because you're going to have, everything priced at the same price point. But I'm thinking 4Runner's the 40 grand-ish one, Land Cruiser's the 50 grand-ish one, GX is the 60 grand-ish one. I think that's kind of going to be, how they ladder it out. We will see, but that's my hunch there. But they're really filling every niche here, and we'll have to see how that plays out for them, because a lot of the German companies try and do the same thing where they fill every little niche and then you got too many options and then they got to backpedal. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's enough demand there to hopefully sustain all of them. They all have a very unique vibe as far as the styling, what you get from them and stuff. So I think that's going to be key, so we'll see what happens, but it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out here in the next few months. And thanks for joining in, Mike, and Raphael, Wheatman, Ludacris, Luke, thanks so much for joining in, everyone. And he says, Tu Chang, meet me in the basement for a beer in 5 minutes. Yep, beers all around in the basement. It's been a good week, so we're going to reward everyone with beer. And Cars, thanks for joining in. He says, hi, Matt. I'm looking forward to another great live stream. Thanks for joining in. B. Mitchell's here, so we must have scared off Beth. No, she just had to take a break here for this one. She's got other stuff she needs to do, but she'll be back soon. She says hi, and sorry she can't make this one. And Ace and Tony, thanks so much for joining in, everyone. Raphael says, Beth's tired of us already. Definitely not. Definitely not. She should like to be here, but she's got other things tonight she's got to do. But V. Mitchell says she must be locking two to the radiator. Yeah. And thanks for joining in, Brian, as well. And Ludacris says, bought some parts for my MR2 this morning. I got a rear wheel bearing and a hub, new fog lights, and new horn units. Congrats. Glad it's coming along piece by piece, and hope it's going well there. And Jordan says, with Elon Musk introduction of brain chips, would that debunk self-driving automobiles if the brain has control of the vehicle? That's an interesting question. I mean, I guess it would be able to read people better as far as what their thoughts are. And then I guess that could therefore predict what their movements are going to be. The thing is, though, like, I mean, I think they're currently only using that to like heal disabled people and stuff. So, I mean, especially with all the opposition there is to anything remotely like that by most people, it again gets to the point of like, if everyone had one of those, then yes, that could work, but that's even further off. I think you're better off having the cars predicting things and that getting smart enough before you have people willingly signing up for brain chips. That is one thing I'm comfortable to say is never going to be mainstream in our lifetimes. I don't care what the upsides are. There's definitely going to be that's never, I don't think it's ever going to take off outside of, minimal healthcare settings where it's like, it's this or disablement, or something like that. But and I'm very happy for, people that it will help. But yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to see. I hope it just does good things and nothing bad, but we'll see. But yeah, that's it's an interesting thing to put in the framework of self-driving cars. But I think I think that's going to be one of those things that it's never going to be mainstream enough for that to help, really, in my opinion, at least. And TFPW says, good evening, Matt. Boxers or briefs? I'm a boxers guy myself. And let me see. I see Ace is saying, I can't say how disappointed I was in the CX-70. Your coverage was great, but to have it the same size and dimensions as the CX-90 was just a head scratcher. You called it about a month back, though. Yeah, and and I even last week I said, I'll be very interested to see what everyone reacts to that, how people feel about that. And that was my kind of way of trying to warn people, like, without saying something and breaking the embargo, or saying too much. But yeah, I mean, we can get into it here now because obviously that's all out now, and I haven't really discussed it, since the first official video there. But CX-70, I don't understand it either. I really don't. And I mean, I tried to be pretty unbiased because there are some people in the comments that are excited about it. They're happy about it. And, again, when I'm covering stuff from a news standpoint, like, I'm going to try and be objective, point out the shortcomings, being like, hey, this is a CX-90 with third row delete and black trim, and basically that's it. Some people, that's great though. So that's why I try to stay a little more center. But here, I mean, on the live streams here where I can be a little more blunt with everybody, I mean, it makes no sense. And I feel like other companies can't help but be intrigued and also probably laughing at the same time, because it's what everyone else would call a third row delete and a black appearance package, or maybe a sport package if you want to give them a little bit more credit for the different front bumper and grille. But to call it a whole different name is really reaching. And it's a strange misstep from Mazda, because I mean, it's not like Mazda is amazing with every single thing that they do or anything, but they've been on a pretty good hit of like logical things. I'm like, hey, this is great, this makes sense. And they have CX-60 too, so it's not even like a cost-cutting thing, because CX-60, just bring that over here and you would have had what everyone was expecting for CX-70. And to just name it that, I mean, it's really, really strange to me. And I can't wrap my head around it either. It's like you said, it's a head scratcher. And I'm really hoping, I guess they'll have a drive program. I don't know what the point is, because it's going to drive exactly the same as a CX-90. But if they have a drive program, I'll probably go on it. And I just want to at lunch or something, be like, look, like, can you give me any kind of inside scoop? Like, why did you put a new name on this thing? Sure, I'm all about maximizing. They have this platform and they got to sell the platform and spread everything as thinly as they can and maximize every investment dollar that they put into that platform. I totally get it, because that platform was hard to justify. Still don't know how they justified that platform, but doing it like this is not the way to justify the platform. It's the same car. That's just too much corner cutting. And again, if you want to offer a 2-row CX-90, totally fine, but don't call it something different. So, I'm going to be curious to try and pick their brain. And I mean, they're going to get it from everybody. And it was even kind of funny, because whenever I was leaving after doing my, little filming thing, which, by the way, like, they gave us an hour, and usually when we have these early first look things and we're filming, like, usually we don't have enough time, or we have just barely enough time, and I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and I'm, like, spazzing everywhere, just trying to hurry up and like film everything. But this, I think it took maybe 30 minutes. And then I was like, what do I do? So I started like just playing around, like trying to get some cool angles with like iPhone pics, and like being like, what else can I do here? Because I don't want to like have it look bad, like I'm not using the full time, but I'm like, I've already filmed this before. Like, like, look, the leather's red now. Look, there's a new bumper and grill. Like, there's only so much to do. And I was surprised that all of my fellow colleagues, almost all of them, did longer videos, much longer videos than mine. I'm like, 9 minutes was even a stretch in my opinion, because like, I don't know how they talked for 20 minutes about what we already know about. It's just, it's last year's news. But yeah, anyway, I just had to rant a little bit there about that, because it's just like, yeah, it's bizarre to me. And we will see what they say. I'm hoping that they do more stuff that makes sense, like, Mazda 6 and maybe a coupe or something like that, or anything else. They can, do a truck on that platform if they want, whatever, but like, just don't, do stuff that are option packages and try and spin it as a new model. But anyway, Raphael, thank you so much for the super chat here. He says, I'm glad you decided to do the single question YouTube videos. I'm enjoying them. I'm glad you're enjoying them, Raphael. It was a very interesting experiment here to do that this week. I think my takeaways are that car specific ones. Yeah, Omar, you can't spam the comments here. I'm gonna, I think there's a timeout thing here, so we're not blowing up the comment section with best 3-row SUV. I already answered that, by the way, Omar, multiple times. Best 3-row SUV is Toyota Grand Highlander, in my opinion. And we've covered this a bunch, Omar, so we don't need to go over the 3-row SUVs every week. But so Raphael, back to your question, about how you're enjoying them. So it's funny though, because the car ones did pretty well. The more automotive industry ones, the AI one, that did terribly. And then the gas ban one was weird yesterday. That got like 160 comments like in a matter of like an hour or two. And then like the comments like stopped basically. It was really weird, and it got like hardly any dislikes, which usually if people are really mad about a video, like they'll get a bunch of dislikes and it's like a clear message is sent. But this was like a bunch of hate comments, but the video didn't get any more views, which makes me think that they are bots that were commenting. I mean, some of them had intelligent responses, but it seemed like the whole like anti-EV brigade came out and like blew up the comment section. They all agreed with each other and were like, oh yeah, this is horrible, blah, blah, blah. Like Matt's terrible and like all this stuff. And then it just like stopped immediately. Like someone just like put out like a blast and something. It was the most bizarre thing, because usually it's like, yeah, if I get a bunch of negative comments, I get a bunch of down votes on the post as well. And it just, is very obvious. But this was like not actually people being mad about the video, even though the comments were like really like pissed off. So that was a really strange one. But obviously, it's always outside of this live stream, it's really stirring the hornet's nest anytime I post anything that is remotely politicized these days with EVs. So it's just like something like staying away from those kind of topics in the future, even if it is bots just blowing it up with negative stuff. It was just like, I was like, what is happening yesterday? That was a little bit stressful, but yeah, I think in the future, like, the DBX one I just posted today, the front wheel drive question, stuff like that, I'm going to definitely try and do more of that. And I'm going to keep doing it. I mean, because they don't take very much work, and it's, a little bit of extra content there. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And I did get a lot of really supportive comments as well on those videos. The people really like those, especially people who can't, sift through a 2-hour long live stream either after the fact, or they can't, watch it here live. Totally get it. I think it's a really, really great idea. I appreciate, those of you who suggested it in the past. And so, so yeah, I think I'm definitely going to keep doing them. I will actually be posting another one here on Tuesday. Tomorrow I'll be having a TX 500 video to post up. But all those off days, I'll keep doing these little live stream clips. So yeah, I'm glad you like it, and thanks for the super chat, Raphael. Let me see. Getting back to the other. Jordan, thank you so much for super chat. He says, my AI comment didn't do well, but I promise in the future it will pay off. Yeah, I mean, I think with the AI thing, I thought it was going to be a really good one. Like, I thought that would actually be really interesting. That AI is a hot topic on YouTube. I mean, there's everyone and their mother's doing a video about AI right now. So I was like, wow, this is like actually should be pretty good for the algorithm and stuff as well, but just didn't go anywhere. So it's very interesting. Sometimes I try and follow trends on this channel and it just doesn't work. It's just like, subscribers just don't go for that stuff, and then it never gets beyond the subscribers and doesn't really get pushed to the general audience of YouTube, and so it just never really goes anywhere. So it's interesting, but I mean, I like talking about that stuff, and I'm hoping some others of you out there do as well. But yeah, I think in the future, just trying to be a little more selective with the ones that I put into those dedicated videos for sure. Let me see where else we were. So Ludacris says, little confused about the tires because the fronts mine have right now on the MR2 are 205 40 R17, but the sites recommend 215 40 R17s for my rims. Which of those sizes would you recommend? I don't know what the proper thing would be. If you have any ability to look at like original reviews, like I know Road and Track and all those have like spec sheets and stuff. So if you can find, it might be really hard, but if you can find like even on eBay or something, like a vintage Road and Track or Car and Driver or something that's, has the MR2 on the cover or something of a review, maybe that can give you some info on the original stuff. There probably is stuff online too about what the original setup is. But as far as what I'd recommend, I would say the more grip the better, especially with the MR2, making a short wheelbase kind of thing. So I'd go to 215s as long as it fits on those wheels. And usually, I mean, I'm no engineer or mechanic or anything, so don't take my word for it, but typically you can usually bump out, even if your rims are only rated for a certain size. Sometimes you can go a tiny bit wider on the same wheel. That depends on wheels and cars and stuff. And I don't know, again, all the ins and outs of that, but just guessing that, you'd be fine running 215s, even if it is just a 205, is what's usually on those wheels. And yeah, I wonder if Casera and Tuned has an MR2 of that generation. She may, I don't know if she's ever mentioned anything about what's original on that or anything, but that's maybe something she probably knows off the top of her head exactly what the OEM wheel sizes and tires and all that are. So definitely check out her channel if you haven't, by the way, for MR2 content. She'll be right up your alley because she'll have a lot of really cool stuff. I also see you had another follow-up here. The sites I checked were Prime MR2 and MR2 Heaven. Turns out what the seller of the MR2 I bought was right. Parts for these are easy to come by and quite available to this day. What the seller said was right. Gotcha. So yeah, hopefully you can get some good info there. But yeah, it's I'm hoping you're enjoying the MR2 because those things I'm sure are a blast. I'd love to try one out someday. And Michael, thank you so much for joining the Matt Moran Motoring Club. I really appreciate it. And I'll keep an eye out if you have any questions here going forward. I'll be more than happy to answer them. But thanks so much for joining, and I really appreciate it. And let me see other member questions. So Mike says, is the CX-70 a disappointment? Okay, so yeah, we already covered that. And wouldn't a smaller, cheaper vehicle on that platform been better with a price spread of like 35 to 55? Yeah, the only thing is, they'd have to be careful about CX-50, because CX-50, I think, gets to mid to high 40s. So I guess if they started something around there, maybe a 45 to 55 spread, something like that. But that's really where CX-70 is going to exist most likely, because I think that's where already CX-90 exists. They start, I think, in the low 40-ish, and then they go up into the 50s there, and then Turbo S is just barely over 60. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe that'll be one of the ways they incentivize it, is they really just save a bunch of money with the third row delete, and that's really the only thing they're saving money on. But I can't imagine that saving them more than $2,000 tops. Even that's probably a stretch. So yeah, we'll see how they play CX-70. I think CX-70 could be a kind of a bit of a miss. We'll see. And Trent Car Guy says, frankly, I have a hard time believing anything Elon says. Yeah, I'll just leave that there, because obviously I don't want to go down the Elon rabbit hole. But I mean, I believe he did actually put a chip in someone's brain. So which is kind of funny considering the types of people that Elon attracts, and then he's doing stuff that is like the kind of stuff that most people are terrified of. It's kind of funny. But anyway, Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, just wanted to remind everyone that my husband predicted copper wiring in the rims of tires to generate electricity for EVs and beyond. Interesting. I've never even heard of that idea or thought about that. That could be pretty cool. I mean, I think there was someone like Goodyear or somebody that was trying to do something about absorbing heat from tires to try and scavenge a little bit of extra energy or something. The problem with copper wiring is copper is expensive. And I think it was even, Jason Camiso was even just talking, when they were talking about Cybertruck, that even just going to the steer-by-wire, and I think just they did less wiring in one way because they went up to, I think, 48 volt for a lot of the accessories, when a lot of that stuff typically is 12 volt, but it meant less wiring, I believe, but thicker wiring being required. But anyway, regardless, it was basically they were able to save a few bucks on copper, and that was one of the reasons why they made one of the changes they made. So I think adding in more copper, I mean, tires are just probably kind of expensive, but if it is if it would pay a huge dividend for EVs, then that could definitely obviously make sense if it's enough of a payoff. But I mean, if that's something that he wants to try and sell, try and shop it around, patent it, get a patent out there, try and figure something out, that could be your your cash cow for put you in the billionaire club or something. So good luck if you want to pursue that. You never hurts to try out some of those ideas. He says, what if the rim was copper? Thanks again for the super chat, Jordan. I don't know if copper is a good enough material for rims. I have no clue. That would be probably a better question for something like Engineering Explained or something, because I do not know the thermal capabilities of copper from a wear and tear kind of standpoint, weight bearing kind of standpoint, stuff like that. Probably would be really heavy too, I'm guessing, which, unsprung weight is definitely an enemy of any kind of car, typically, especially anything that's going to be remotely sporty. But it's interesting to think about, and thanks for bringing that up. And Jay, thank you so much for rejoining the Matt Maran Motoring Club here. I really appreciate it, Jay, and I hope you're doing well, and thanks for joining in. Let me see other member questions here. So Luco says, random, but I had a gym class in high school with an Alex Maran in Eastern PA. Any relation? Probably not. So Maran is just a shortened version of my last name, just because having people try and spell my whole Polish last name is probably a tall order for most people. So I just shortened it to Maran here, just for, the channel. And so I don't have any relations to any Marans, I don't think, unless there was other people with the same last name that decided to shorten it potentially. But no, I don't have any family in Eastern PA. Let me see. Luke says, I was hoping the CX-70 would have been a coupe like the GV70 competitor. That would have been another way to play it. Yeah, if they didn't want to make it any shorter, just hack the cargo space up a little bit, and then you have something more unique too. I agree. Maybe with that though, I know Mercedes is scaling back their coupe SUVs and stuff, so maybe Mazda is already seeing that could be coming to an end, and they don't want to jump on that bandwagon too late. I don't know. Evinder says, hey Matt, just joining in. Have you thought about creating a second new channel? Since your channel doesn't get the views you deserve, I've noticed new channels get recommended more. That is true. New channels do get recommended more these days. I've debated like if I were to do a second channel or how I would do it, or just like scrapping this one altogether and just starting from scratch or something. It's an interesting idea. And honestly, I mean, there's a definite logic to it that, I mean, it may actually work. The problem is the pay hit in the meantime. Unfortunately, I don't have enough of a buffer to stop uploading to this channel and put everything onto another channel. So really the safest way to do it, because the thing is with a new channel, like even if I got a bunch of people that were able to come over and resubscribe and, watch the videos, you still have to have a certain amount of watch time hours, and that takes time to build up. So you're not going to get it monetized immediately. It would take some time to get monetized. And I mean, one thing I learned whenever I switched the name even over, that threw so many people off, and it was still the same channel they were still subscribed to. So I think if I were to do a second channel, the way that I would kind of have stepping stones, from one to the other would be to make it a vlog channel, or at the very least, maybe, do like the news on that channel or something, and then just split it off that way. And then if that channel continued to grow and grow, then I would say, okay, well, I'm just going to port over everything onto that channel and then just jump ship off of the Matt Maran Motoring channel, and do something like that. So that would be kind of the way I would approach it. I just, part of it's probably also just sentimental stuff, but I've just built my life around this channel, this brand name. And I mean, I've spent, the past 15 years here, basically almost now, building up the subscriber base. And I know subscribers are pretty useless from a, actually getting videos out there, because YouTube doesn't push them to my subscribers anymore. But, I still have a certain bit of pride, honestly, just wrapped up in just, I've an accomplishment of, accumulating that many followers. And, that's something that I would like to think that it's at least a little bit helpful. Even though, YouTube has shown pretty consistently that it usually isn't, but it is, this year, everything's on the table for me, because this could be the last year I do this if things don't really turn around. And so, as we go through the year here, if, things still aren't looking better with, like the daily uploads, with adding in these little live stream clips and new video formats, and, trying to switch things up and trying to figure out, what if I can get something else to actually do better here, then that's when I'm going to start really just kind of pulling at all the strings and being like, okay, let's try vlogs, let's try this, let's try that, let's try a new channel, and just because at that point it'd be basically like I have nothing to lose kind of thing. It'll be like the last tries before I just go and get a job with an OEM or do something else. So so that's definitely something that I'm gonna consider if things don't improve later on this year. But I'm hoping, I'm just hoping that things improve, because I really do believe that I do good videos, and I obviously they're not for everyone, and I'm not saying that they're the best videos ever or anything, but I really feel like there is something that's not clicking, and I don't know what it is, for as far as subscribers and views and just because I watch other stuff. I look at what videos did get good views, and some of them I can understand it, but there's a lot of them that I can't wrap my head around it, aside from the fact that yes, they're newer channels, they're fresher faces, but when I look at the information that's provided and I look at the production values, I feel like I'm doing a really good job as a one-man crew, that's been doing this a while. I feel like, I do have good stuff. So I'm definitely open to trying new things to try and get it out there, because I feel like there's still something that's not quite right with the way things are going down on the channel, and I'm not sure why. So that is certainly something I'm going to be open to considering here later this year for sure. But I got a lot of other ideas I want to try first, of just like, random different video ideas, list videos, trying to jump on trends more, just all kinds of things I think I could pull out before I go for that, because the new channel is kind of a drastic thing. And then that's also, it's a big deal, because I got to ask everyone like to switch over and resubscribe, and there's a lot of extra baggage and messiness involved with doing a switchover like that. So gonna try and avoid that until it's kind of a last ditch thing, and then I will do vlogs or whatever and film myself going through the McDonald's drive-through or something. It's like, well, we'll see if anyone watches this, and just keep doing stuff like that until like I said, I've just kind of exhausted every avenue. So we'll see, but hopefully it doesn't get to that, and we'll keep on being positive and hope for the best. Let me see. Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, with the latest trend being SUVs and trucks, what do you see being the next trend? Diehard sedan fans here. Yeah, well, I think in the past I've kind of mentioned, I've seen some studies or opinion pieces that have suggested that sedans could make a return for a couple of reasons. One, they have better aerodynamics for EVs, which could make sense down the road if aero efficiency is king, and also just the fact that you see the growing trend of who's buying SUVs and trucks. It's increasingly becoming an older and older demographic now. There's a lot of young people as well that like them, and I'm not saying that an SUV or a truck is an old person vehicle, but if younger generations say, oh well, my grandparents have an SUV, my grandparents have a truck. I think trucks are a little more resilient, but I think with the SUVs, and especially the car-based crossover stuff, where it's not a rugged vibe, it's just like, I don't want to bend over into a car, so I have this nice high crossover, so I don't have to, ache my creaky joints. Like if it's that kind of a crossover, I think that's where you're going to see the potential for those to someday be uncool. And sporty, low-slung vehicles will always be more youthful, because you have to be youthful to climb into them and climb out of them and all that. And I think the unpracticality could kind of come back as a cooler thing beyond just sports cars, which always will have that cool factor. But as far as sedans and stuff, I think you could see some of that potentially. And also we will see, I don't know how much regulations can really affect this, but we're seeing, more and more studies now suggesting that the higher the hood is, the more deadly a vehicle is with pedestrian impacts. And we're seeing that is a huge problem. It's really getting bad really fast. I think there could be some legislation coming down the road to force everything to a certain hood height. At least as far as SUVs goes, or crossover things, maybe once you go up to the truck class, then there will be some exclusions there. But I think that, there may be some attempts here in the future to try and lower everybody's hoods and not have these grills that are, the size of a brick wall, and, try and, get things a little bit more pedestrian friendly. We will see, but I could envision that happening in the next 10 to 15 years as well. And so I think that's something that, could potentially happen, and that could also force things to be more sedan-like, even if they're not technically low-slung sedans. But I think I could see sedans coming back as a trend. Other trends, automotive-wise, I think plug-in hybrids are going to have a really big resurgence here. I think, with GM now saying they're going to switch over this week, and a lot of people just being like, there's a lot of people that, according to the studies, at least, a lot of people are really considering EVs, but it's price and it's, still just the charging situation that are the two things that freak them out. And especially if, PHEVs kind of close that price gap a little bit, and you have, no worries as far as charging infrastructure with plug-in hybrids, I think there's a lot of people that do want to go electrified, but they don't want to go all the way to an EV. They can't make that commitment for a bunch of valid reasons. And so I think, like I've said, I'm going to be a broken record here, but, I've said multiple times, I think plug-in hybrid is definitely the more sensible thing for most of Americans. And especially for where we're at right now with how things are developed and how things are perceived in the public, whether or not that is reality or everyone's reality, but that is the perception is, that the charging network is bad, even though lots of people have great luck with it. I've had great luck with it, but, regardless, people have also had negative experiences, and that's valid as well. So I think, plug-in hybrids are going to be a huge trend here as we go into the later, 2020s. And the Europeans have kind of already predicted this. We're seeing, they're putting plugs in the front of the new Lamborghinis and all this kind of stuff to, have these plug-in hybrids ready so that whenever you have, these cities with no gas engines allowed for the city centers, at least to start, I think that's where these plug-in hybrids are going to really be really great. And I feel like that's going to be, I think plug-in hybrids are going to finally have their day after being wildly unpopular and uncool for so long, and so many people arguing against them. I think plug-in hybrids are going to be, a really huge thing, because it just makes too much sense, in my opinion. And Kevin, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, fastest new car that runs on regular gas. I mean, with modern ECUs, most stuff can run on regular gas and just take a little bit of a performance hit. It's not advised for some stuff, but I mean, as far as stuff where the manufacturer rates the horsepower on regular gas, man, you stumped me on that one. I don't know. I think because all the muscle cars, I think, even rate for 93. I don't know. I can't think of anything performance-wise that actually doesn't rate for 90. There's probably stuff out there, but I'm blanking on a performance vehicle that actually is manufacturer recommended to do regular gas in for peak performance. Typically, they're going to try and go for that higher horsepower number, and that means putting 93 in it and tuning it for it. So I don't know. I mean, there's stuff I think Toyota Grand Highlanders, rated it. I mean, that's just a recent one I drove in the past year or so here, where they rated for regular, and it's almost 300 horsepower or something. But there's got to be something that's better than that. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head. If I think of anything, I'll let you know, Kevin. But thank you for the super chat. And Jordan says, thank you so much, Jordan, for another super chat. He says, out of all the car enthusiasts that we watch, you're the only one that has a live chat. Keep it up. Elon definitely wants to control the world. Well, I'm glad that you like the live chat. I know there's a few other channels that do live chats here, and yeah, but I mean, it's really fun. I love doing these. Like I said, it's the easiest thing I do all week, and it's great. And now, especially with the little live clips, hopefully it'll help provide extra content for the channel as well, which again makes my life easier. Which I'm trying to find ways to work less, not more, because I am just so burned out. So I love doing these live streams. I do them more often if I could, but I feel like I don't want to. I know this is a lot of time for people, and I don't want to have more than one live stream a week and expect people to show up for multiple times a week or something. I'd be open to it. I'd love to. There's actually, I was talking to Beth, there are some channels that used to do regular content that have just switched completely, just doing lives and just showing up and chatting on a live, and that's it, and their entire channel has become that could be another thing. Even if I were to quit this channel as far as reviews and stuff someday, I think that would be something I would probably do. Is I would still just hop on here every Sunday night, still just be like, hey, whoever is left, how's it going? And just kind of hang and do that. So I don't think I will ever fully quit, because I love even just doing these, even if that's all I did was just a live chat once a week. So but I'm glad you like them. I'm glad that so many of you have joined in and enjoy these, and hopefully we can, keep doing these for a long time, regardless of what happens with the channel. Because I mean, so many of you, it's like we're all friends, just hanging out like a cars and coffee. That's really how I feel about these. And let me see. So, other questions here. I don't want to get too far behind on the member questions. So, let me see. So Raphael says, I just don't get any. I just don't get anti-EV. I don't think it's for me right now, but I like the tech, and I'll get one eventually. I think obviously there's a lot of things. This could be a whole 2-hour ramble, but I think I'm trying to think of how to word this, because again, since I just got raked over the coals yesterday with that. I mean, I think the thing I can say is, obviously EVs are not the solution for everyone. It was never going to be a one size fits all thing, and it never will be a one size fits all thing. There's just, people are too diverse with their lifestyles for one thing to work for everybody. But I think, there's just a lot of people that are threatened, and there's a lot of money at stake. You have very powerful companies and industries that, that is their entire livelihood is built around gas stuff. There's a lot of other things, and obviously with the age we live in now, with conspiracy theories and stuff, and people who genuinely believe this stuff, they genuinely are anti-EV because they genuinely think that it is going to ruin the world in one way or another. And again, I'm not going to get into all that stuff because, again, it's unfortunately been very politicized. Even though we're just talking about cars, you would think it wouldn't be that way, but it's the way the world is these days. But so it's and I can get a little more personal with this, but I guess I'll just say, I think there are some people that do mean well and just genuinely think that, there's some bad stuff there. And again, EVs are not perfect. They certainly have plenty of shortcomings. I'll be the first to admit it. I mean, there's a laundry list of bad things about them. So, but it's interesting how the comments, if you want to really be reminded of just how anti-EV some people are, that comment section is a trip in yesterday's video. It was wild. So if you want to see the state of the anti-EV crowd, you can eat your heart out in that one. But Adam says, hey, Matt, I can't stay, but just popped in to say hi. Looking forward to the Lexus Texas video. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. And hope you have a great week. And thanks for saying hi. And hope your Mach-E's treating you well. Ludacris says those magazines aren't going to be an option. My rims are aftermarket. Gotcha. The same ones, the sites I saw recommended for tire size. Tire Rack is my go-to for tire information. Wheatman says, Tire Rack's been really great, even for my reference. When I'm reviewing a modified car or something, and I need to know, what was the original size on these things, and what kind of tires did they run? Tire Rack's been really good for sure. And Ludacris says, I had a mechanic check out my car, and he said the tires for the original 15-inch rims the car would have were very difficult to get a hold of today. Many companies don't even make tires for them anymore. I mean, there's very few companies that make 15-inch tires. Because I don't think it's a modern car that has anything less than a 16. Maybe a Mitsubishi Mirage does like 15s, but even that might have gone beyond that at this point. I don't know, but Mirage was probably the last gasp of that. I think even a Versa's got 16s as standard now. Definitely it'd be hard to get. And Joe says, ice only. What's the highest MPG you've achieved in a vehicle? If you're talking like non-hybrid, I'm trying to think even what it would be, because I know hybrid, probably the highest was the Prius, the new Prius. I cracked 50, and I don't think I've ever cracked 50 in a car before. Beyond that, if we're talking non-hybrids, I'd gotta say it might be something like actually the Versa, or possibly the Toyota Corolla. What was it? The Corolla or the Toyota Yaris, which was just a Mazda 2 that I reviewed many years ago. Something like that. Those really small subcompacts that are actual sedans and, don't have a lot of power. Those ones, I think I was seeing, pretty high 30s. I feel like there might be one where I've cracked 40 before, but I feel like usually anything over 40, you got to be in a hybrid, basically, unless you're really good at hypermiling or live in a place that's very conducive to high MPGs for whatever reason. but I think that's, yeah, definitely Prius is the top one for sure as far as regular hybrids goes. And Carlos says, "Hi, Matt. How are you? It's been a while since I last joined. Thanks for joining in, Carlos. Doing well. Hope you're doing well too. And thanks for stopping by. Hope everything's good." But Raphael says, "Copper would be much too heavy at the amount necessary for a wheel." Okay, that's what I assume. So thanks, thanks for the extra info there, Raphael. And Luke says, "Copper must be valuable. Someone broke into an abandoned house in my neighborhood and took the water meter because of the little bit of copper in it." Yeah, copper theft is like a huge problem. That is like the number one thing. Any kind of abandoned house, straight. That's the first thing people go for is the copper. And there's other things. I can't remember. There's something else recently where like, yeah, people were stripping copper out of something. It's not catalytic converters, but it was something like that where they found some way to, yeah, get a bunch of copper out of stuff. Yeah, copper is definitely very valuable. And Nub, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate it. And make sure everyone's got their gifting on there so you can get those memberships there. And thanks so much for your generosity, Nub. I really appreciate it. All right, let me see. Other member questions here. Make sure I didn't miss anything else here. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so Joe says, "Conversely, what was the worst ICE vehicle MPG you've seen?" I think it was either I think Corvette Z06 and Ram TRX are tied. I think both of those I was like 11 or low 11 or high 10s. That's the worst. I don't think I've ever been single digits in a car. I don't think. Yeah, at least, yeah, as far as modern stuff. So yeah, I believe probably TRX or Z06. And but I mean, the TRX I actually wasn't driving that intensely. Z06, obviously, I was getting on it a lot, so that one explains that. But yeah, I think like 10 or 11 is the worst I've seen in those. And Jay says, "Sorry, I didn't know my membership didn't go through. Hope you and your family are doing amazing. Greetings from Minnesota. Great weather so far here. Hopefully you can say the same for PA." Yeah, well, thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. I really appreciate it, Jay. And glad it's also been good in Minneapolis here. It's been, yeah, really surprisingly nice in PA here. It's been like 40s and 50s, and it's been perfect because I was supposed to have a press car here this past week, but it ended up getting damaged because that happens fairly often with at least my press fleet. Some really not great drivers in this press fleet. But anyway, so I was supposed to have a Nissan Sentra. Obviously not like the end of the world. I didn't get that one. But so I've been saying no to more press cars just to be like, look, I don't think this is going to get views. Like, I'm sorry, like, just don't send it. And so as a result, I have a nice little gap here. I think this entire month I'm not going to have a press vehicle. So I've been able to drive the Bullitt when it's like warm-ish. Today it was like 50 degrees here. It's been so great. I love just treating the Bullitt like a regular car and driving it every day, and just that's all I wanted to do with it. It's just drive it. Unfortunately, it's become this garage queen, but I never wanted it to be that. I wanted to put 200,000 miles on it, and now that's going to take me my entire life. It still might not even get there, but so yes, very happy I've been able to have good weather and have the opportunity to drive the Bullitt every day, pretty much, and so that's been great. So it's been a great winter for me as well. I mean, we had one decent snow. Our daughter definitely wants to do more snow stuff, so I'm hoping we get some more for her sake. But not mad about it. It certainly makes it nicer to film car reviews whenever it's not frigid outside. So yeah, but I'm glad Minnesota's been pretty good too, because I usually, like with a lot of my flights, I fly Delta, and usually connections, my options are either Atlanta or Minneapolis typically, and I like the Minneapolis airport way better than Atlanta. Atlanta's just so packed and chaotic, but I usually avoid Minneapolis in the wintertime for connections because I'm like, I don't want to get stuck in a snowstorm or something. But I'm glad to hear that it's actually getting pretty mild here in Minneapolis this year. So hopefully, yeah, I can get back to flying through there here pretty soon. So thanks for the info there on that, and glad you're doing well, Jay. And let me see. So, Carlos, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships as well. I really appreciate it. Glad to see so many people able to get the memberships there. I see we got Little Rockstar and Cars and Jazz, all kinds. Ace, everyone's able to get the memberships. I'm so happy. So thank you so much for the generosity, Carlos and Nub again. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. I really appreciate the very generous super chat there. He says, "Do you think the film industry has an influence on the actual car buyer consumer? Fast and Furious, the latest film featured the EV charger, but all the James Bond movies and the Italian Job pushed sales. I think there's definitely a huge effect and positive effect on that. That's why they spend tons of money, and like Dodge throws whatever Universal wants for these Fast and Furious things. And I mean, they put big. I mean, like the EV charger, you can guarantee. I don't know how much money they paid. Was probably too much money for the amount of screen time they got, but they pay big money for those placements, and it's a big deal. Product placement in movies is insanely lucrative. I really wish it would spread over to the YouTube world, because unfortunately it doesn't. And man, I wish it did, even just a little bit. It would be so nice. I'm wearing a Puma thing. I wish this was sponsored, but it's not. But like in movies, everything you see is sponsored. It's also, sorry, a little random tangent here for 30 seconds, but it's so funny how, movies and TV shows and all this stuff get away with everything basically in the production being sponsored. Every single thing you see is placed there for a reason, with a dollar value attached to it. Every single little thing you see. And there's no like hashtag sponsored, like, hey, be careful, this is sponsored. There's no mention of sponsorships whatsoever. The double standard is hilarious, how they're trying to crack down on influencers and YouTubers and stuff. Oh, you didn't say it was sponsored in the first 5 seconds or whatever. And, they try and crack down on people. But then like everything you see in a movie or a TV show, every second is sponsored by something. And this Coke can is in here for a reason. And this watch is in here for this reason. I mean, every single thing you see, and it's crazy. But that stuff obviously has a huge effect. And I can even say myself, I'm a huge James Bond fan. What is like one of my top dream cars? An Aston Martin DBX. I wonder why. What is the watch that I desperately would love to own someday? An Omega. Because James Bond wears one. Like, it works, definitely, at least for gullible people like myself, I guess. I'm very easily influenced by movies. Why I have the Bullitt Mustang? Because of a movie. Why did I want a Mini? Because of the Italian Job. I'm a sucker for that more than probably most people are. So it's definitely effective, at least on me, but I think a lot of other people obviously as well. Yeah, I think that's and we're seeing this now also with influencers, the huge effect that influencing has. And, a lot of people downplay it, and there is certainly, a lot of areas where it's overblown. But you look at like the Stanley phenomenon that's been happening over the past, few weeks, and how, you can really influence people and make a huge trend and a huge fad out of nothing, something that's been on the market forever. And all of a sudden now it's cool because, it somehow caught this viral trend. And it's just like, it's funny, but I mean, that it all goes, it's the same kind of core thing of someone cool is using something, and so therefore I'm going to use it as well. It's it's been a thing for a long time, but yeah, definitely a thing in the industry, for film industry too. And thank you so much again, Jordan, for the super chat. And Trunk Car Guy, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships as well. I'm loving the generosity here. And I believe, let me see, because I believe that YouTube told me that I could also gift like a certain amount of memberships every month too, but they always say we can do things, and then I never they never actually show us how to do this stuff, because I'm looking and I don't think there's a way that I can see in my control panel here to gift anything. If I figure out a way to do it, I will let you guys know. I need to look into that, because they keep telling us like, hey, you have memberships, you can gift as well. I think I have 5 or 10 a month that I'm able to do, but I don't know. I got to figure out still how to do it, because I'm trying to click around here and there's nothing showing me how to do that. But I'll figure it out for sure, so I can get in on the gifting fun as well. So, but thank you so much for the generosity. And Jordan, thank you so much for gifting a membership there as well. So glad we're able to expand the membership base. And hope you guys are also enjoying the membership exclusive stuff too, like the member car of the week and, the schedules and all that I've been posting. And I'm going to try and do, some more exclusive videos and stuff here going forward as well. But for any of you who are new members, definitely be sure to check out, I believe there's a membership tab of member only stuff. You can get caught up on all the member exclusive videos and all the member community posts and all that. And, get the most out of your membership here. And hopefully a lot of you consider joining here after that, gifting period as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for your generosity. And Jordan, thank you for the super chat. It says message retracted, though. I'll keep an eye out if you want to repost it. But I see you also said, would the Mach-E benefit from film? I'm sure that's something Ford is looking into, since they've been really blasting Mach-E ads everywhere trying to, get those things sold. So yeah, I think that could be, definitely something they'd love to do. And Ford does a really good job of incorporating their products into a lot of production. So I think that's certainly something they're going to probably, try and do. Especially now we know there's a limit to the EV demand. I think they're going to now be like, okay, we got to actually market this stuff, and not, assume they're going to just sell themselves. And so I think we'll probably see a lot more EV placements like that in, productions going forward, just to, again, kind of reinforce the whole cool factor and kind of get them, in the eyes of the public that, might still be a little bit unaware of that. And Stud Muffin, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, how do you feel about French cars entering the US market? Do you feel as though Peugeot and Citroen would sell a lot in America? It's tough. Alfa Romeo is a prime example of this. Obviously, they're not French, but, of a foreign, European company that isn't BMW, Audi, or Mercedes, coming in and trying to make a dent. It's tough. And, I think we're seeing what is it? Is it Peugeot that wants to come in with the Alpine brand? That's Renault? Yeah. But I think Peugeot and Citroen. I think I love some of the stuff they have. They have some really cool looking cars. I don't know. The thing is though, they're engineered for Europeans. They're usually, set up for cities and just European way of life in a lot of ways. So that's always kind of the challenge, like Alpha has the performance angle. So that was always kind of like a little bit more like, okay, well, this is like common ground that Americans also would appreciate. And obviously Peugeot and Citroen have stuff that's American sized too, but they also have a lot of small stuff, which is really their bread and butter. Fiat is another example of how this kind of was a struggle. Again, not French, but same kind of core problem of, do we do completely unique stuff for the States and then lose a bunch more money and hope for the best? Or do we just sell the European stuff? And that hasn't really gone great for Fiat. And Fiat doesn't really care because they're just enormous. And, the American sales are a rounding error with the global sales of Fiat, so they don't care what happens. They even said that much whenever they were talking about this new 500e that's going to be on sale here, I believe, maybe this month or next month. They're like, we don't care. We're doing it as like a fun experiment because they're that rich and they can do it. And so, 500e is not set up for American buyers pretty much, but they're just still going to see if they can sell it in some cities and see where it goes. I'm actually really excited to try it out, but I'd love to see. For me, I'm always open to more competition. Competition makes everyone better, and it forces everyone to compete. And I think the more competitors out there, the better. I'd love to see every car company succeed. I never want to see a car company fail. And so I would love to see a Peugeot and Citroen come in and do some good stuff. It'd be interesting to see. I think I can't remember is Peugeot part of Stellantis. There's so many brands that are going on, or is it just Renault that's the only French one within the Stellantis empire? I can't remember, but with some of them, if they can kind of work some angle with some of these other companies and get their foot in the door that way, that could be a good way to make the leap here. And I mean, Peugeot and I think actually Citroen both tried, way back when to get into the States, and they sold stuff in the States here and then just didn't last. Obviously it's a different time now, but maybe they're still kind of licking their wounds from that or trying to, just be, it's harder to justify if they already failed once, that's always tough too. But I'd love to see all that stuff come over here for sure. It was so fun whenever I was in France back in 2019 and I was geeking out over getting an Uber ride in the back of a Peugeot or a Citroen. A Citroen Cactus, I think, is one of the ones that I got a ride in. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen this before. This is so exciting. And it was just, random stuff that is like an Uber, like ordinary car, and no one bats an eye at over there. But then for me, I'm like soaking it up and I'm like, just checking out everything. And it's just very fascinating. So I'd love to see that stuff over here. But let me see other member questions here. I'm gonna get a drink here while I get caught up. All right, so I apologize, everyone. I'm so far behind on the member stuff here. All right, so Raphael says the way to do a new channel is to tell us ahead of time so we could all comment and like every video so YouTube would push it out to more people. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely for sure give everyone a heads up if I was going to do something like that. Although after yesterday's weird thing with that like whole like roasting of that video in the comments, that made me think that maybe YouTube doesn't push stuff when there's comments, because that video clearly had a lot of conversation. Whether it was real or not, I don't know, but if I mean, maybe YouTube would figure out it was bot generated or something. But there were some intelligent comments, and I think there were real people behind some of those comments. But that got a ton of comments, and I was like, oh boy, this video is gonna like blow up because this is like the comment section is popping, and then it didn't. It's like, it didn't get hardly any views, which was also another strange component of that whole thing that seemed kind of fishy with that video yesterday. But regardless, I'm not convinced that after seeing that comments actually help. I mean, certainly like engagement is still important, but I really wonder with YouTube, I thought that would really push that video and it didn't. So I'm not sure what role comments play. But anyway, just a random little aside there. But yeah, if I were to do a new channel, you guys would be the first to know about it. And I would definitely, because I love getting feedback from all of you as well. So I definitely would be talking through it with you guys too, and kind of thinking out loud on some of that stuff and try and find the best way to do that and give you all a heads up for sure. And Jay says, hey Matt, which one do you like more? G87 M2, F87 CS, F87 Como, or N55 M2? Or sorry, that was Kevin's question, but I'll answer it anyway. I'm very foggy with the generation code names for all those different BMWs. So I can just say between, I believe is the G87 the new one, and the N55 is the prior gen, or is it the first gen? Which I guess it's the same thing. So, so which one do I like more? Between the M2s, I definitely like the old gen M2 better than the new one, personally. Between the F87s, I haven't driven the new M3s at all. I haven't even driven the new 3 Series yet. I'm hoping to change that, because Harrison Auto Sales, the dealership that I work with, they did get a 330i, and I'm going to try and find some time this week to go and film that potentially, just to get my hands on a 3 Series finally for this generation, as it's like basically done. But I want to drive one of those, but I really don't have much, I don't have any experience driving them. But as far as, the different versions and stuff, I think to me, my favorite version of all the M products are the simplest ones, the cheapest ones. The M2 is my favorite product they have currently in the lineup. Z4 is close, but that's not an M car. But I love the M2. I would say if I were to get an M3, for me, it would certainly be the manual rear-wheel drive base M3. Same thing with M4. I think those are really the sweet spot in my opinion. And Jay says, how about if everyone creates an additional YouTube account to subscribe to you? I mean, I'm not going to say no to anyone doing that, but definitely don't go out of your way to do that. Because again, I really feel like subscribers, unfortunately, YouTube doesn't care about that anymore. I wish they did, because it would really help me a lot if they did, but they don't. I look at the analytics and I see impressions, and a video gets 50,000 impressions. So like that's, what is that? Not even a little over 1/10 of my subscribers are even shown the thumbnail. I mean, it's like I don't even get a fair chance. Like, if subscribers matter, then I would have basically the same amount of impressions as I have subscribers for every video, no matter what. And that's not the case. So unfortunately, it just, YouTube doesn't care about it anymore. And honestly, I think if people subscribed and then they weren't watching from that account, then I think YouTube would actually take that as a negative sign of like, oh, look, there's a bunch of new subscribers, but none of them are actually watching the video. This channel sucks. And and then, that might actually work against us. So I feel like, who knows? The algorithm is still a mystery to me, but YouTube swears up and down that like for every time you say algorithm, say viewers. And if it's instead of making something the algorithm would like, make something your viewers would like. And I think that is it. But I really feel like I am making stuff that you guys really enjoy, and you tell me you enjoy it. It's just, again, that mass appeal is just the thing that's missing, unfortunately. Or it's just, again, the algorithm's just not giving me a fair shake. But either way, I feel like yeah, the subscribe thing might not actually help that much, aside from just making the channel look better. But anyway, thank you, Jay, for offering the suggestion there. And two, thanks for joining in. He says, hey guys, sorry we got power issues on this side of the basement. Karate Shop guy decided to roundhouse kitchen the junction box. Well, thanks for joining in too. And glad you're able to get out of the basement there. And Luke says, I love your videos as is. I prefer tried and true like you versus new channels. The video style's predictable. I know you'll get all the details that I want to know about a vehicle. I'm glad you like it. And I really feel like that's one of my strengths as well, is keeping it consistent. And yeah, it's just unfortunately doesn't seem like it connects with everybody else. But I know there are so many people that do really enjoy it, and I do appreciate the support, even if it's not millions of people. I still really appreciate it, and it still means the world to me. And Vic says, when it comes to sheer enthusiasm, Matt's the king. I appreciate that. Thanks. It's always fun. I always make sure that I never drive quickly in a car until my first on-camera acceleration, because I always want to preserve that reaction and make sure it's genuine and legit. And Vic says, been here through the Super Ducks fan days. Well, thank you so much for supporting the channel all these years. It's crazy that I made that name change now. It's gonna be 7 years here this year, which is insane to say. And the Works fan stuff's been even older than that. It's wild stuff. So thank you so much, Vic, for joining in. Glad you were able to get a membership there as well. And he says, I swear you got to 1 million views on the BRZ. Yeah, I did end up. I have a lot of videos over 1 million views. Back in the day, it wasn't easy, but it was a whole lot easier than it is now to get 1 million views. I probably have maybe even a couple dozen videos. I have a popular videos tab on the channel. So, you can go through there and see all of them. There's a bunch, but I think the BRZ Tour is like 1.5 or 1.6 million views. And a bunch of the other video coverage from the BRZ days is also, pretty high up there too. Because I was the only one doing that back then, of being like, hey, I bought the new hot car. Here's what it's like to live with. I think I was one of the first to really do that. Now that's like the copy and paste formula that everyone does for every single new car out there. And again, I'm not saying I was the original or anything, but it's so funny how there really weren't anybody doing that. Everyone was just like, hey, I subscribed to you because you had a BRZ, and no one else was covering BRZs as far as ownership stuff. And it's kind of fun how that all progressed. And I really regret getting rid of that car. In hindsight, I had like a financial setback, and that was why I wasn't able to keep it back then. But looking back on it, I could have just refinanced the car and lowered my payment and probably gotten through okay without getting rid of the car. And if I could time travel back, I'd be like, don't get rid of the BRZ. Whatever you do, keep that car. Because I think that really, that was really huge. The channel kept growing for years after that, but it's just, that was, I think, really one of the high points for sure. And I missed that car to death. And funny enough, I was even just on Auto Trader this week, just taking a look at that first gen BRZ, 2013 BRZs. They are stubbornly staying really high for the decent ones. I was hoping that nice ones would depreciate a little more, but unless it's really ratty, they are still so expensive. And not insanely expensive, but they're more expensive than I feel like they should be. But I still kick around the idea of maybe just getting another one and just to relive the nostalgia days. I see all the hearts and all the support. So okay, maybe there's something to that idea. And that is also something I've considered as well. If for some reason I need to, get rid of the Bullitt here down the road, if the channel, financials necessitate it, that could be a potential downgrade option, is just going back to one of my first loves there and getting another old BRZ. That could be fun for sure. We'll see what happens. This year will be very interesting. Be very interesting to see how everything plays out. Let me see. Sorry, I missed a couple of super chats that came in here. Raphael, thank you so much for your super chats. It's completely off topic. Your favorite 3 foods? For me, tacos, grilled rib, steak, and pepperoni mushroom pizza. Those are pretty high up there on my list too. I think my 3 favorite foods. Steak is definitely, I think steak's probably number 1. Spaghetti's got to be one of the top ones too. And then what would be the third? I don't know. maybe chili, maybe ribs, something like that. Probably is towards the top there. I'd say that's probably it, though. I think, yeah, steak and spaghetti are my easy top twos for sure. Thanks for the fun question, Raphael, and the super chat as well. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, as a member, are the super chats an issue? Don't want any issues. No, definitely not. Everything is all good. And, you know, I know, again, we get behind on member questions as well. I certainly will answer every member question before I sign off here today. But, you know, if you know, the super chats are something that people want to do to, you know, make sure the question is the next one that pops up here, that is totally you know, good. But you know, I also obviously I'm going to always give that priority answering to those member questions as well. But yeah, no issues with the super chats for sure. And Jordan, thank you again for the super chat. He says BMW i3 or Ford C-Max. I've never driven either of those. I had an extended family member who had a C-Max, really liked it actually. i3, you know, they're super cheap. I think actually it'd be kind of a fun little commuter car for people who really want something cheap that's really going to save them a lot of money on gas. The other thing is it's a BMW, which means electrical gremlins and iffy reliability. It will be a concern of mine. So I mean, I don't love either of those choices, but between the two, I'd say C-Max probably, just because it's got that pretty well established Ford hybrid tech, which has been shown to go for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles and all the taxi cabs and stuff in the Escape and all that. So I think that's a really solid powertrain. So I'd say C-Max would be the way I'd go in that scenario. And let me see, getting back to the member questions here. It's always takes me a while to find them here. So let me see. Luke says, I love sportbacks like the Acura Integra sedan driving SUV cargo. Me too. I think it's the best of all the worlds. I totally agree. I wish more people showed hatchbacks and wagons love for sure. And Jay says, I've seen a couple YouTubers review the base trims of vehicles like a regular LE all-wheel drive RAV4, since most people buying just go for the base, but I get where consumers nowadays want luxuries. Now, the problem there for me is just that manufacturers always send us, or even on drive programs, put us in the top trims because they want to show off everything that they have in the nicest possible version. You know, some companies are better than others with giving us lower trims. That's one thing I love actually about Toyota and Lexus programs, is that they show up with basically all the trim levels. Like I was driving around in the second to the lowest trim on the Lexus GX event. Like almost nobody else does that. Kia on the EV9 launch, they had like two of the mid-grade trims of the EV9 for us to like poke around at if we wanted to. So that was something, but most companies, it's just like, yep, we got like everything is a top trim. And so that makes it tough unless you're going to dealers and, you know, getting that coverage there. But like I actually loved, if you watched, I guess a year and a half ago, whenever I did the Lexus RX review and the initial launch of that, for one, they had every powertrain there. I was able to drive all four powertrains back to back, and that made that video so good because I was literally able to be like on the same road, same day, same everything, back to back to back to back, and give you like the best possible comparison of every single powertrain, how they compare against each other. I loved that video, and I think people actually really appreciate it because that one like kind of bombed in the beginning, but now it's gotten like over 50,000 views over the past year and a half here because I think, you know, for people who are debating, you know, what powertrain do I get? That was great. But the great thing also about that program was they also had a base, bare bones, no options. Like here is the crappiest RX that you can get for 2023. And it was really cool because I actually did a little walk around video on it, and I don't think it's got a ton of views, but I think people really appreciate that. Like here is the worst case scenario for, as someone who also, I kind of go 0 to 100 sometimes. And I like knowing worst case scenarios for many things, you know, that was great. I'm like, here's like the absolute worst experience you can get in an RX as far as equipment goes. And I'm like, it's actually still really nice. And I think, you know, most companies, their base cars are really good. I feel like they should be more proud of them. And I'm glad that, you know, at least Lexus and Toyota are embracing that. I'm sure two is, you know, off in the basement yelling about being a shill, but seriously, like Toyota does it really well. And I love that about them. But I mean, to your point, yes, doing base trims is definitely a valuable thing. I want to do more of that for sure. It's just locating them. And it's also kind of funny because the couple, basically the only new dealer that I have great access with right now is Toyota. And Toyota is pretty good about their coverage of lower trims. So it's like the one I don't need help with is the one that I have that opportunity. but certainly I would love to do more base trims and, make connections at more dealerships to try and do that if time allows. That is definitely something. I thought that could be a whole channel. So another idea for like a second channel. I should probably not be giving away all my competitive ideas here, but doing a second channel of just like base car reviews and be like, I'm only filming base models of everything on this channel, and just do that as like a thing, and just know that when you go to that channel, you're going to see the base model of whatever it is, and you're going to see the cheapest one, but also how bad it can get, or how nice you get for a base one. That would be a lot of work. That'd be a lot of legwork of driving to various dealerships to try and hunt down base models. Dealerships also don't often get base models, so even they are often like, those things are unicorns typically. So that is the problem, and that's why a channel like that could never be like a full-time thing, but could be a fun idea possibly for a second channel or a side thing for somebody else is to, just go hunt down all the base ones and do that. I think that's a really good idea, especially these days where everyone's strapped for money and everyone is, really struggling with inflation and stuff. I think that has more merit now than ever. So 100% think that's a great idea. I've been wanting to do more base stuff for a long time. It's just, again, finding the time, hunting it down, and then weighing that against all the other ideas I have for content and things that I can, post to. So that's where it's just, if there was 10 of me or 5 of me even, I'd probably have gotten around to doing something like that on a fairly consistent basis. It's just trying to find the time to do that. But I agree, it's a really good idea, and another one of those options I will explore more if I can't make things thrive here with the way I have been doing things. So that's certainly something I'm considering. And Mike says, any Super Bowl commercial predictions, expectations from car brands? So EV9 is, I believe they said they're going to have one. They wouldn't show it to us. I was on the EV9 launch and they were like, we're going to have one, but like, we're not showing it to you. So I don't know what they're doing for that. What else was there? I think we know that, did GM say they're not doing anything this year? I think they're cutting back big time on their marketing spend. I think Stellantis might not be doing anything this year, if I remember correctly. I think there's a couple others. I mean, usually Hyundai does stuff as well, so I'm sure they'll probably have something. But I don't know. I don't think I've really heard of any upcoming car commercials. I'm excited. I only watch the Super Bowl for the commercials, and that's like always my favorite part. So I'm curious to see what car commercials out there. But we did know that EV9 was going to have one because they told us that, and so I'm hoping. Usually you see like a nice little traffic boost if your video ranks high enough. You have people that are like, oh, there's this thing called an EV9. I've never heard of that before. Let me look it up on YouTube. And then, usually there's a nice little bump there in view. So I'm hoping there's some of that. I think Toyota's doing some stuff. And so I'm hoping, I really hope they do like a Tacoma one or something like that to kind of boost that a little bit up. But we'll see. But I don't have any expectations or predictions personally. It's just always a fun surprise for the most part. And by the way, for you guys, just as a heads up for next week, obviously the Super Bowl being Sunday, I will not be doing a live stream on Sunday. I'm going to be doing next week's on Saturday. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully that still works out okay for most everyone. But obviously I'm not going to try and compete with the Super Bowl. So I will be doing it on Saturday next week for sure. And Trent Carga says, I'd love to see wagons, especially sporty ones, make a return. I know. Yeah, you definitely would. And I would love that as well. And Vic says, agree, being hit with a Mack truck would hurt. Definitely. Yeah. And that's hopefully that stuff improves, because it's kind of crazy. Jay says, did you get invited to test drive the new Lotus Emira yet, or get invited to that press back then, since it's basically Toyota? No, didn't get any invites. I don't think Lotus has my email or any. I don't have any connection there with Lotus. There is, amazingly, I live like 10 minutes from a Lotus dealer, which probably about 10 people in the country can say that. But, so I do have one, and, I've debated, making that connection. It's one of those things. Yes, they'll maybe get an Emira. When will I get to drive it? Maybe they get a demo in, maybe they don't. I don't know. But, I think I'm going to hold off until Lotus has more stuff, because I think no one's going to want to see me review the electric Lotuses when those come. I might try and see if I can get into an Emira, but it seems like it's an amazing car. And actually, when we were on the Tacoma drive, Sophion from Redline Reviews, I believe that was when he had one. I know that was, I think, the LA Auto Show. Yeah, same week. he had one, and it was, it seemed like it was great, and he seemed to like it and all that. So I definitely would like to try one out. It seems like an amazing alternative to a Cayman, but yeah, that one, no connections there, unfortunately. Maybe someday. And Luke says, have you seen how cheap Teslas are with pretty low miles? Was surprised when I looked, but no one knows the long-term reliability, or who knows the long-term reliability. Well, a bunch of them have been super cheap because Hertz just dumped hundreds of them from their fleet because they're kind of partially giving up on EVs there for their rental fleet. And so just because they say they're really expensive to repair, and there's just some other hurdles there with them. So, I mean, if you go on Hertz's like used car site, you will see a ton of Model 3s for like 20 grand. And that along with all the other EV discounts. I mean, if you are someone who wants an EV, this is definitely the time to buy one, because I don't think this is going to last. It's just this like current really fast drop, and I think we will see a rebound. But I have seen it. It's pretty wild. And I mean, honestly, it's good though, because it gives people the opportunity who've been wanting a 20 grand EV. Here you go. As far as long-term reliability, they do seem to be pretty good. Even the ones that have had the battery kind of beaten up from a, like care standpoint. It seems like, I mean, I've seen I always follow on Facebook. There's a Mileage Impossible Facebook page that I love. It's fascinating to me because they always show like high mileage stuff. And it's really funny, some of the stuff that you wouldn't think would get to high miles that actually does. And there are some people, some of them have, like, there's some of these Uber drivers that, run Model 3s and stuff, or even Model S's. And especially the Model S is a really good example because that's been around for a lot longer. And there's still some Model S's on original batteries that still have like 80% capacity and stuff, even 10 years later. I think the battery reliability is actually pretty good most of the time, at least the way the Tesla batteries have done. We'll see how everyone else's batteries age, but it seems like Teslas are actually pretty resilient. And I know all the modern EV batteries, I mean, they all have 100,000 mile warranties, which obviously isn't that high of a goal, but, most of them have been, it seems like they are trying to, like with these new solid state ones and stuff, they're engineering them to have like 5% degradation over like 300,000 plus miles. And so like the goal here is like several 100,000 miles, basically have the battery outlive the vehicle, which should hopefully calm all the worries, at least from the rational people, for, these batteries having to have these expensive replacements. If the battery lasts you 300,000 miles, most people don't keep a car that long, even people that are driving the average 12-year-old car on the road or whatever. I mean, there's still, most people don't hit 300,000 miles in anything. So I think that, if they can really achieve that, I don't know how other companies are these days with that currently, but if that is the goal, then I think, these future EVs, that will certainly be something that hopefully they will advertise and show the proof of like, hey, look, we've done this in a lab, we've done this, out on the road with, engineers testing them or whatever, to show like, hey, these things can last a long time. Because I really do think it's definitely capable of it. Batteries don't have to be garbage after a few years. Like, they can be good, and you just have to do it right. And also make sure you have the software in there to make sure that you're not abusing the battery and stuff too. But Vic says, no winter tires for my 275/35 of the Cadillac CT4V Blackwing, so I won't buy it. That and the fact that I don't have 100 grand. Yeah. Well, I thought someone was doing, because 275s for winter tires, that shouldn't be that hard of a tire to find, because there's winter tires for the Bullitt. I don't have them. I just have all seasons. But you can get 275s. I think Pirelli does some of the biggest winter tires, because they have snow tires available for like Ferraris with like 325s and stuff. So there's gotta be snow tires for a CT4V Blackwing. I'd be really shocked if there isn't. I mean, I'm guessing you've looked into it. I find that hard to believe. I'll have to check out Tyra, because now I'm curious once I get off the live stream here. But there's got to be something out there. I know Pirelli and others like that have done, I know, well over 275s on this. So maybe it's just the 35 is the oddball part. I don't know. I've talked to Cadillac about that too, because they're actually really good about making sure there's snow tire availability for stuff. Like the C8 Corvette has snow tires available for it and all those. So GM's usually pretty good about their snow tire coverage, and engineers making sure there is an option out there for people, especially because they got to live with it in Michigan, and engineers themselves have to drive this stuff in the wintertime. So they need snow tires just for their own development work. So I feel like there's got to be something out there. I'm not sure. But let me see. Yavinder says the fastest regular gas power car has to be an '08 Gen Ultima, not because I have driven one for like 4 years. Yeah, well, I mean that and all the other rental cars. The rental cars are always the fastest cars out there, right? Because there's just no inhibitions. You're just driving them fast, and Ultima energy as well. It just makes everyone drive super fast. So that could potentially be it. No shade against Ultima owners. I actually really like the Ultima. I think it's kind of underappreciated, to be totally honest, especially the new ones. But all the memes kind of just write themselves. And Rafi says, "Hi Matt, happy laundry Sunday since it's raining today. So no car wash, I guess. But glad you're able to get some stuff done." And let me see. So. B. Mitchell says, on the subject of additional channels, would it be worth sending material towards your earlier vintage car channel and promoting it if you get some new material in it? That would be something I personally would like to do just because it would be fun. There's just not enough demand for vintage car stuff. Even Haggerty, they've pivoted to doing the new stuff as well, in addition to like the Barn Find Hunter series, which I love. It's just, I think that's another fun side thing. And I know there's a few people out there that get some big views on vintage car stuff, but usually it's build stuff or barn find stuff or restoration stuff, not just like, hey, here's how this drives. Especially because I've tried reviewing vintage cars. And I did like a 57 Ford Ranchero. It was so fun. No one watched it. Even like the 60s muscle cars, like those have now done well over the years, but they weren't as big of the hits as I was expecting them to be totally honest. I personally, again, I would love to do vintage stuff. I'd love to review every single vintage car that's ever been made, but I'm not convinced that would get views just based on what I've done in the past and also just what I've seen out there elsewhere. I would love to be wrong. And if that changes someday, or there is something that gives me confidence that is something worth pursuing, 100%, I would love to do that. And, if, one of the other things I've talked about in the past is, doing more older stuff on the channel here and kind of pivoting away from the new cars, because clearly a lot of my viewers don't want to see EVs. They don't want to see stuff that's over $50,000, because it's unrelatable or it's just unappealing or whatever. And so that's one of the things, is going backwards and doing older stuff. And I think eventually I will get around to doing more vintage stuff as well. It'll just have to be the prime stuff that gets the most search volume on YouTube, and just trying to, go for those most, popular ones. But as far as the vintage car channel, that channel, since that is also an old channel, I feel like I would have a better shot of starting a new channel versus trying to promote another old channel that YouTube probably wouldn't show any love to, so I think that would be another channel. I mean, I like that channel and I'm happy to leave it up, but I feel like I'm just going to let that one kind of sit there and let it be what it is, and then not try and invest any more time in that one for now. Again, if I quit YouTube someday and I'm just doing it for fun, then that could be something I could just be like, sure, I'll share this cool 55 Ford that I saw at this car show and put it up there. And I don't care if it gets 5 views, like it's whatever, if it's at that point, then maybe I'll, put some stuff up on that channel. But if I'm trying to actually do this as my living again, then I'm going to try and go for, the most appeal that I can possibly go for. And Yavinder says, wouldn't the tire size be on the door jams? Good point. Yeah, you're right. It should be on the door jam, I'm pretty sure. I don't know when they started doing that, but I feel like it's been a long time. So I'm guessing stuff from the 90s should have that too, as far as the MR2 thing. Trunk Car Guy says, I think Mirages run a 14-inch wheel stock, much like my Lancer. Okay, well then there you go. There's one vehicle out there. I mean, those tires got to be so dirt cheap. Another little perk of the Mirage. There's not many perks, but at least there's a couple there. Two says, because it's not a weekly live stream without one, Clarkson voice. Some say Matt created him, but he also created Matt, and then he saw your video, Matt, and he's mad at you, Matt, because you should always choose a number X. You know the rules, Matt. Disrespect him again, you'll be tied to the radiator. All we know is he's a Super X fan. Yeah, it's always fun. I miss Top Gear, all those Clarkson things. Good times. Thanks for always keeping us laughing in here too. And Luke says it was the power lines around the city. I'm guessing that was in regards to something else. I don't remember. Sorry, I'm so far behind about these member questions here. And let me see. And also, Artie Choke, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, would be fun to see you drive a McMurdy Sperling. Yes, I barely even know what that is. I recognize that name, but I honestly can't even picture what that is. So you've stumped me there for sure. I'd love to drive anything. I'm always naturally curious. I think that's one of the things I really love about doing this job is that whether it is a Mirage or it is $1 million car or some McMurdy, it's for me, I'm always having that natural curiosity of what is this thing like to drive? And I'd love to drive anything. I'm always down to give basically anything at least one shot and see what it's like, unless it's something that's like a real death trap, like where it's sketchy to drive, not only just because of like it being old, but because of it like trying to kill you with handling. Like a Viper, not to put a, I mean, Vipers are very capable vehicles in very skilled hands. I would like to think that my driving skills have evolved over the years, and I certainly think that I am, not a terrible driver. But Viper, if I'm honest, is one of the cars that does like kind of intimidate me, where I'm like, I've seen so many people, have a Viper get away from them that I'm like, if I never review a Viper, I'm okay. I mean, I've had awesome experiences in Vipers. I had the lead engineer of the newest gen Viper take me around. I believe, was it VIR? It was either VIR or it was what was the other one in West Virginia? I can't remember the name of the track, but anyway, full downpour. We hit like 180 on the back straight in a Viper ACR with the lead engineer of SRT, like full attack, and me in the passenger seat. Incredible. One of the most visceral experiences of my life in a car, to be totally honest. Vipers are amazing, but I just don't know if it's something that I don't think I need to climb that mountain personally. Maybe it's an irrational fear of mine. I don't know. Carrera GT is another one after Paul Walker's thing. Again, I know it was the tires on that car most likely, but I don't want to drive a Carrera GT. I'm like, that is one car. I want to stay far away from a Carrera GT. It's just, for me, it'd be too much of a negative experience, even though it's an amazing car. It's another one. I'm like, nope, I never want to drive a Carrera GT after that. And it's a shame that it ruined an amazing car for me, but it's just something I can't get out of my head. It's just like, I'm never going to be able to ever enjoy that car, knowing, it took away one of my favorite actors. Again, it wasn't the car's fault, I think, but still, it just, the two things are inseparable for me. Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, Matt, move the live chats to 5 p.m. Just try it. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some merit there that, some people would probably appreciate at an earlier time. I know some of my European fans have said, obviously, they can't make this kind of a time zone. But I really try and protect my family time and try and, keep the work-life separation as best I can. That's why 9 p.m. our daughter's asleep and I'm able to do these, without taking any time away from her, because I already work so much that I don't want to, that's prime dinner time for us, and it'd be fun to do something at a different time. And I'd be curious to see if the viewership does change one way or another. But I think a lot of people are also probably busy with their own families at that time as well. So so I think I'm going to keep these definitely in the late hours here. Now, again, I'm open to other days of the week or something, but I think it would have to be, usually I'm off limits typically from like 5 to 8, because that's just always family time for me. But yeah, it'd be fun to try different days and other things down the road for sure, and see if there's any time that works better for anybody. And thank you so much again, Jordan, for another super chat there. And all right, I got to get caught up on member questions. We got another half hour to go here, so let me see. All right, so get another drink here. I don't think we're too far behind. All right, so see, Carlos is Cars is thanking Carlos for the gift there, and V Mitchell says, I drive my 19 Mustang GT in this milder winter, but Minnesota is notorious for pre-treating the roads. Is that a problem in Pittsburgh? Yeah, they do that. Definitely like to lay down salt nice and early here. Obviously, they got to do what they got to do to keep everybody safe. But yeah, it's not great. I mean, the Bullitt has seen salt. I don't love it, but again, if I get an opportunity to drive that car, I'm going to drive it. and not baby it. I want to just treat it like a regular car. Obviously, that's really bad for the long term. I'm sure I'll be paying for it in 15 or 20 years whenever stuff's rusting or whatever. But, it hasn't seen as much. It's seen certainly way less salt than most cars in Pittsburgh have. So I'm hoping I don't fare too badly. But yeah, it's definitely seen some salt. So not ideal, but it is what it is. And James says, fun question. In your opinion, what is your best 2-car garage summer and winter for 60 to 80 grand? I'm guessing you're saying 60, 80 grand max. If it were me, I would say GR Corolla for the winter car for sure. Base one, so call it 40. The other 40, I'd probably spend on a Bullitt. If I had that much money to spend and I needed something else for the wintertime, it would just be Bullitt and GR Corolla for me. You could also extend that out to any other Mustang. You can also extend that if you want to swap the Bullitt for something else. I would say, GR Corolla and GR86 would be probably a dream combo for me if, Mustang wasn't a thing. Or even, use Supra. I love the Supra still too. So I'd probably, if it wasn't GR86, it'd be Supra and GR Corolla. As you can see, I love all the new Toyota products. They're just fantastic. So I think that would probably be it. If we're talking used stuff, I'm going to need more time to sit down and think about it. But I really like new stuff. I like having, the newest safety, newest tech and all that stuff. So I'd probably stick closer to newer stuff anyway. So I think that's probably, where I would be. If I was in a lower price point and I didn't have as much money to spend, there'd be other things I'd maybe throw into the mix. But even some of my favorite older stuff is so expensive these days. Like I'd love an S2000 or something, or like a Miata. Things like that. I mean, Miatas obviously you can get a new one and they're not expensive. But S2000s are just getting so expensive these days that it's unfortunate. I mean, I guess I understand why, and it's fully deserved, but it just makes them less obtainable for people. Ludacris says a lot of racing games have product placement everywhere. Yeah, that's another thing as far as getting back to that for sure. Cars with Tim said, is the Aston Martin DBX the worst luxury SUV? I've never driven a DBX, so I can't say. I will warn you, I have a very strong bias to liking anything that Aston Martin does this. So I hate that the DBX doesn't have a touchscreen. And I don't love that it's got a Mercedes motor. I think a perfect DBX would be the Aston V12 in it and a touchscreen. And it sounds like the touchscreen is going to actually happen here really soon. This new infotainment system they just put in the DB12 that we're going to see in the Vantage here, I believe, in the next week or week and a half. And then, I think DBX is going to get it after that. And I'm hoping that maybe they do the V12 in there at some point as well, because then it would probably be one of the ultimate SUVs, in my opinion, outside of the Ferrari Purosangue. But I've never driven a DBX. Maybe it's garbage to drive, but it seems like I've heard good things about it. And so I don't know. I don't have anything really against the DBX personally. Obviously, it's expensive, and a Cayenne turbo probably runs circles around it. But I mean, it's kind of a different buyer, I think. But yeah, I wasn't crazy about this other thing when it first came out, but it has grown on me. So yeah, I don't know. I think actually DBX is towards the top of, if money's no object SUVs, that'd be one of the top ones for me. I'd still rather have a Purosangue and probably a Cayenne turbo too, but I don't know. I think I'd be tempted to get a DBX even with the current infotainment system being unideal. But Trent Cargeist is not going to lie. Part of the reason I'm a Charger fan is because of the Dom 70 Charger with a blower. Yeah, I mean that car made a huge impact on me as well as a kid, and yeah, those product placements are strong. They really do leave a lasting effect on a lot of us. A Silva says also why I like the Mark IV Supras and the GTRs. Yeah, it's definitely the movie thing. I mean, that's why I love the GTRs too, and Supras, all that stuff. The Fast and the Furious really did, I think, shaped so many of us. That first movie when the stars, the cars were the stars in a lot of ways. And yeah, it definitely, I mean, I think you've probably already seen, but I got the Super right there. And yeah, that if I won the lottery, I would, hunt down one of those really good Super clones. Or if I really had a ton of money, I think the one stunt car actually from the movie crossed Barrett-Jackson a couple of years ago. And man, I would try and find whoever owns that, not in a weird way, but I'd be like, name your price and try and buy that one. I think that'd be the ultimate thing. Again, being, you know, the movie obsessed nut that I am. Yeah, but all those cars, I think, yeah, I think Supras definitely have had much more of an appreciation because of the Fast and the Furious, GTRs as well. Because I remember when Supras were just like really overpriced GTs, and there wasn't a huge appreciation for them. I mean, yeah, there was obviously like a tuner scene, but it was like a rich dude tuner scene for Supras. Because I mean, we're talking pre-Fast and Furious, you're talking basically late 90s, early 2000s, like the year before the movie came out. You know, they were still really expensive cars. If you go run the inflation calculator of what a new Supra cost back then and what it cost today, I believe last I checked it was like 80 grand. I mean, the new Supra, when you count for inflation, is cheaper than the old one was. Yeah, but like I remember when Supras were just kind of like these, like considered by automotive journalists as like these bloated, overpriced, you know, thing. Like, who would pay this much for a Toyota? You know, that whole thing was going on. You know, with those, and then Fast and Furious happened, and it was obviously, again, the 2JZ was legendary before the movie and all that, but you know, I think there was just a huge appreciation that didn't exist before that movie for sure. Caleb says Maran is a shortened form of his last name. What's next? Matt is a shortened form of his first name. I know, crazy. Yeah, it's true. Matt is not my full name. So you got me there, Caleb. Jay says, with the Stanley Tumbler thing, I didn't buy a Civic Sidecar because John Cena drives and owns one. But nice to know he owns one. And after I've owned mine for 3 years now, and with Fast and Furious, I was hoping to see a Civic Type R in one. Yeah, it's weird that we don't see any Hondas really featured in Fast and Furious movies, again, outside of like the first one. But yeah, it's because they're so key to the tuner world and all that, you know. But yeah, it was really cool. And I mean, you know, not like I ever had anything against John Cena, but whenever he was on that podcast, he's like, yeah, I drive a Civic Type R. It's great. I'm like, wow, like really respectable. Like, he's not in some, you know, super high end thing. I mean, he could, no shade for anyone who, you know, if I had the money, I'd certainly be rolling around a Ferrari and stuff too. But like, he's just like, yep, I got a Civic Type R. It's great. That was so cool to find out for sure. B Mitchell says, have you been getting more members sending images of their cars, or will you get desperate enough to use pics of my rough and tumble 47 International pickup? I had a couple more people that sent stuff in, but I'm still waiting for more. Yeah, by the way, if you want to send a picture of your vehicle in to be featured as a member car of the week here, there's always links in the description here for any of my social media stuff. You can send in a picture or send it to my email. I can feature it for anyone who's interested. But yeah, I think there's not many more. So I think that's going to be something that I'm going to be starting to go back to some of your other vehicles there. You mentioned you have a great collection though, but yeah, if more people don't send in their vehicles, then it's just going to be like, hey, let's just show off the other vehicle that B Mitchell has this week, which is still going to be fun because, again, you got a great collection, but won't have a ton of variety as far as members, you know, but still could be cool. And two says, Matt, you're Puma sponsored now. Wonder how Toyota would feel. Rage Shadow Legends wasn't happy when cars and bids approached Kyle. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, cars and bids. V Mitchell says FCA rebranded the Chrysler 300 as a Lancia in Europe. Yeah, and they did the same thing for, what was it, Dodge? What is the thing called? Not the Journey. The Journey also had Lancia stuff on it, and there's one other one too, I think. But yeah, I'm hoping we get some Lancias over here in the States as Chryslers, and they kind of return the favor because they make some cool stuff, and Chrysler could use some help. And so we'll see. But you know, says, hey Matt, is a Mazda 3 hatch a good long-term vehicle in your opinion? How easy / annoying would it be to put a full-size baby car seat in the back of that? Mazda 3 would be a really solid buy from a long-term vehicle standpoint. I think Mazda is right up there with a Toyota, and honestly, in some ways, in my opinion, potentially could be slightly superior to even Honda in reliability. Now the what is the word I'm looking for? The Consumer Reports and like some of the JD Power stuff, it seems like Mazda isn't always 100% top, but they are really close most of the time. Regardless, I mean, that Mazda 3 is going to be pretty bulletproof. It's got a proven engine in it, proven transmission. I think that would be a very solid car to buy and keep a long time. I wouldn't bat an eye at, you know, I would totally be up for owning one for a long period of time and not have any worries about it. No extended warranty needed or anything. I think that one would be a good buy long term. As far as putting a baby seat in the back, If you never have a passenger in the passenger seat, or if your passenger is pretty short, you could probably make it work. Otherwise, unfortunately, it's not big. It is tight, and I don't know if I don't think I had a baby seat in the back of any of the Mazda 3 hatch or sedan. Um, yeah, I don't think I ever did that, because I think I had those press vehicles before we had our daughter or right after we had her. I can't remember, but yeah, it's going to be tight. It's one of the smallest back seats, unfortunately, in the segment. If you want a more baby friendly hatch, Civic hatch is going to be your best bet. It's got a bigger back, seat. It's got a bigger hatch area, and it's still going to be pretty reliable. There's a little bit of annoying rev hang if you're going for the manual in those, but other than that, I think that would probably be the better play. Unfortunately, the Mazda 3 I think is superior in a lot of other ways. But that also, the Civics are pretty reliable. There's actually someone who used one as a courier vehicle, a Civic. There's a 2022 Civic Touring with the 1.5 turbo motor that, like, it was like a 2022, the newest generation here. It had like 250,000 miles on it already. Totally fine, regular oil changes every week or whatever with doing mileage that fast. But, it was fine. I mean, that could be just like they got lucky or something, but to me, that's like a really cool early glimpse of how those motors might hold up over the long haul. Obviously, age plays a factor as well, and that's not been accounted for. But as far as mileage goes, it seems like that motor is pretty good for the long haul. I know it's some early oil dilution issues in the early CRVs and stuff, but I think it's been mostly better now. I don't know, but anyway, back to your question, though, I think Mazda 3 is going to be tight for a baby seat. I would certainly, everyone buys different baby seats as well. So it's hard to say, depending on which baby seat you want, or if you really want a car badly enough, you can get a lower profile, smaller car seat if you'd like as well. It just comes down to, what you want to do there. So I would just test fit it at a dealer and make sure for yourself, is this something you can live with? And that answer is going to be different for everybody. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. But that it might be tough, to be totally honest in that. And V Mitchell said Peugeot, Citroen, and DS and Stellantis are those are the Stellantis French brands. Okay, well, thank you. So they got both of them. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be really, really nice for Fiat. Obviously, I know it's a little bit of mixed branding of Italian and French together, but I think Fiat dealers could use some support right now, and I think that being like, hey, look, you got two more brands to sell, and just kind of shipping them over with kind of a carefree attitude like the current Fiat situation could maybe be. I mean, it's just so expensive to legalize everything, but I think that could be a fun way to approach it. Who knows? And Caleb says 7 years since the time change. Time flies. It definitely does. Daniel says even Doug DeMuro has gone from getting millions of views on every video to just a few 100,000. Yeah, it's getting really tough to get views. It's very competitive, and it's not even not even Doug who's hurting. It's not me that's just hurting. It's everybody. I mean, there are other channels that are really popular that are struggling to get as many views as they used to. I think again, inflation has really hit everyone hard. These higher price tags have hit everyone really hard, and interest rates are just killing demand for stuff, and so people are just shopping less. I know my brother-in-law again works at a Toyota dealer, and he's like, people love the products, but then you get them into the finance office and they walk right back out because they're not paying crazy interest rates when they got good credit and stuff. So I'm really hoping that the interest rates come down here this year, because I think that'll help everything. When the car market is strong, I think car viewership for reviews and stuff is strong. Obviously, those two go hand in hand. So if the car market's down, views are going to be down a little bit as well. But it's also it's more competitive. We're currently in this new phase where we're getting spoiled with Haggerty videos. We're getting spoiled with amazing Savage East videos and all these other really high production videos. And Doug and myself and others could get away with lower production values for a long time, and there wasn't a necessary component there. But I feel like that is certainly becoming more and more of a thing, is like, if you are not putting out Netflix quality content, you're going to get less views these days. But you can't compete with Haggerty. Like, they have the deepest of deep pockets, like at least as far as car review stuff goes. You'll never beat Haggerty. None of us will ever beat Haggerty. I mean, Savage Geese is, one of the ones that's gotten the closest to doing it, without being a giant corporation. I mean, Motor Trend can't do it anymore. They gave up, put everything behind a paywall. It's really tough with especially the YouTube algorithm not rewarding quality. They're still rewarding quantity. They want you to have, as many things out there as possible. It's tough. So, You know, and I mean, I've talked to Savage Geeks. I mean, it's really tough for them too to keep doing that. I mean, it takes so much more work than people realize. And you know, even just my own quality stuff, you know, I like that's one thing that kind of separates me from like a lot of my other buddies, you know, like Joe Rady and, you know, Redline Reviews and all those guys. Like they do basically one take stuff. Like there's no B-roll in their videos pretty much. It is, you know, someone following them around with a camera. It's one clip and they, they splice them together and that's the end of it. Versus me, I spend 12 hours editing because I have hundreds of B-roll clips. I'm showing close-ups of every cup holder. I'm showing close-ups of every little thing on the infotainment screen. I'm showing close-ups of the gauges. You know, I'm not just sitting there with a GoPro and being like, hey, check this out, check that out, check this out. Like, you know, and so there's a lot more work that's involved there. And I've always hoped that maybe that would kind of, you know, be something that's appreciated, but clearly, you know, I know for some of you it is, but for most people it isn't. But I think, you know, that's, you know, even that kind of stuff doesn't really help, you know, these days. And so it's like you either go to the one extreme like those guys and you just literally like have something that takes you 5 minutes to edit and you just, you know, do a one take thing, or you go full other spectrum and you have cinematic stuff, you know, and, you know, all of us in between here, even Doug isn't, you know, immune to this. It's just, it's really tough because why would you watch my video when you could watch a Haggerty video? Like, I mean, I fully recognize like they do awesome stuff. Like, you know, so people only have so much time in the day to watch car reviews. You know, what are you going to watch? I mean, Jason Camise is amazing. The production values are amazing. The stuff's super entertaining. You know, I don't blame people. And so it's just kind of one of these things. And that's why I've kind of, you know, slowly realized that this probably won't last forever and it might not last very long here. And I'd love to keep doing this forever, but you know, if Haggerty and all those guys put us out of business because we just can't compete, then, you know, that's competition. You know, the best will rise above and the weak won't survive. You know, it's Darwinism in the YouTube car review world. And, you know, that I may be one of those casualties. We'll see. And that's why I'm, you know, open to other alternatives and, you know, doing other things. I mean, obviously reviews is what I love, but it's, you know, I can do other stuff. I can vlog. I can, you know, go work for an OEM and try and improve, you know, enthusiast stuff from the inside. I mean, there's all kinds of options, you know, so we'll see. But it's interesting the way YouTube is, you know, continuing to change like it always does. And if you don't ride the wave to the top, then, you know, it is what it is. I'm just a realist about it. And I'll be curious to see, you know, how Doug feels about that stuff as well. But it's very humbling for sure when, you know, you used to be on top of the world and it used to be easy to get views, and then it all of a sudden gets hard. It's definitely humbling. And let me see. So sorry, I missed a couple of super chats here. And Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships as well. I really appreciate that, and glad to see some more people are able to get some memberships there. Now, Jordan says, is AI not part of self-driving tech? There's a little bit of that, but you know, AI is still kind of just a, you know, fancy computer program, and, you know, self-driving tech is obviously just a bunch of computer code. So it's, you know, it's AI can intelligently decipher some stuff, but it's only as smart as, you know, it's given the abilities of, you know, doing. And again, it still is just like, there's still a human component that it can't figure out the same way, you know, ChatGPT can still be really dumb. AI could be really dumb still trying to drive a car, you know, and so it's just, there's still some deficiencies there for sure. Stud Muffin, thank you so much for the super chat as well. He says, have you ever considered buying a special edition Mustang such as Parnelli Jones, Hurst, or Roush? No, have zero interest in any of that stuff. It has its appeal, but to be totally honest, I think most of them are very overpriced for what you get. Again, they're collectible. Some people really like, you know, those brands and those things. But I know all the years, even the years before I had Mustangs, and I was just wandering Mustangs or I was wandering Ford lots, you know, looking and drooling at Mustangs and stuff. I mean, it was always like, look at this crazy Roush thing. It's a GT with a supercharger bolted onto it, and they want $75,000 or something. You know, it's just like, they've always been so insane with the pricing on those that it's been an immediate turnoff for me. I honestly don't know how they've kept them around, to be totally honest. Again, I know there's people that like them, and no disrespect to anyone who does, but I don't see the value there, and so I just I don't go for that kind of stuff. I mean, I've driven some, I've reviewed some Roush stuff. You know, I enjoyed them. They're fun, but you know, I think it's one of the worst values out there if you're looking for performance dollars. I mean, and people who would go for that, you think they just would do the mods themselves, but I guess it's, again, the collector thing. that is worth the money for some people. Let me see. So Truck and Car Guy says, I've considered getting an 86 BRZ ones I can afford to. They are definitely fun. Definitely recommend if you can. Dave just said guacamole. I must have missed out on that on the comment. So, but I fully support just yelling guacamole randomly too. That's always fun. Let me see. Jordan thinking is another super chat. He says, work for an OEM. What does that mean? We don't want to lose you here. OEM is original equipment and manufacturer. So that means car companies. So going to work for a car company, a lot of it's actually a very popular transition. There's a lot of automotive journalists, mostly like, the print guys and girls that, do, just actual writing for magazines and realize, hey, this isn't paying me anything. I'm tired of being broke. And they go work at a car company and make double the salary, So, that's a very popular thing. And there's still lots of people that continue to do this. Again, mostly people that are tired of, writing freelance for websites and getting paid, peanuts and stuff. But, it's a very popular thing. A lot of the PR people that are currently working at automotive companies were former journalists that have made the switch over and, worked for a car company instead. And, I think for me, it'd be a challenge because I'm so used to being objective and unbiased that, having to then go into something and be like, even if I don't personally think this has every advantage out there, having to sell it as that and be like, this is amazing. Like, I got to respect whoever wrote the press release for the CX-70. They didn't mention CX-90 once. They really tiptoed around like, oh, there's nothing here. It was just like this trying to make it seem like a new thing. And I'm like, I couldn't work for Mazda. Like if they're like, hey, look, here's what you got for CX-70. Now write a press release about how it's awesome. I just, all right, well, give me a box. I'll pack my things and go. But that's kind of one of the challenges. But obviously, like, that's why you get paid, the big bucks to, try and, paint these things in the best light possible. But it's, I don't, that's one of the things I've been trying to evaluate is, would my personality being very blunt and very honest and really, it'd be tough, not like that you're being dishonest if you're a PR person being like, this is a great vehicle because you're there. That's your job, is to sell that vehicle. But, it'd be a switch for sure. But yeah, so there's, again, we'll just have to see, how things play out. And like I said, if nothing else, I probably will still, no matter whatever happens here in the next, year or two, I'm hoping to always be able to do these lives at least and, hang out with all of you, and just do that if nothing else. But let me see. Daniel says, sorry if this is too personal, but do a lot of your living expenses get covered by savings from the glory days now that views are down? If it wasn't for the residuals, then I would have had to quit many years ago. A lot of my views still come from those glory day videos. I still get 100 views a day on my 350Z video from 11 years ago or whatever, that kind of stuff. That was always my long-term strategy for YouTube, was like, even if I'm not getting the most views on every single review that I post, over time, they all are evergreen videos. Unlike vloggers where, no one cares what the vlogger did last week. They're always looking at what are they going to do tomorrow? And that's exhausting because you always have to do more. With the evergreen stuff, you have a base there. I kind of have a base salary and I kind of view it like a commission job. I have my base salary, which is the old stuff. And then I have the commission stuff, which is the new stuff that kind of, gives me that little extra boost. But I have my base pay of all the old stuff that I've done. And I had always hoped that would be a growing mountain that would obviously, deteriorate slowly, but it seems like it's deteriorated faster than I was hoping it would. And so that long-term plan hasn't played out. Obviously, again, it's still been keeping me, afloat more so than any other new channel. If you're getting the views that I was getting on only new uploads and you didn't have 11 years of car reviews under your belt, like, yeah, I would definitely this would not be my full-time thing. I would be starving. I'd be making way less than, probably minimum wage at that point, with the amount of views that these videos get these days. So the base pay stuff is definitely key. But it's just trying to, and that's why, with the way that I've been doing the new videos going forward, like I'm really looking at search volume. And even if like a video doesn't get a ton of views right now, like if I know it's going to make me $1 a day for a long time to come because there's, sustained long-term search volume for something, then that gives me those are the kind of videos I want to invest in, is stuff that I know people are going to be watching 10 years from now, not just the fad it car of today, but stuff that has lasting appeal. And really, that's one of the things that's really helpful about the Google Trends. You can go on Google Trends, you can go in there, and it'll show you like how many people have been searching on YouTube for this car or that car. And that's how I weigh out which reviews I film these days, is how many people are searching for this and how many people have been searching for it for over a year now. That makes me think that this is going to last, and so that's kind of one of the things that I really focus on. But yes, 100%. If you were coming into this and if you were a new YouTuber and you're getting 5 to 10,000 views a video, like, you're not doing this full time unless you're living in a hut and eating ramen every day. Like it doesn't pay a lot at that view level for just those new ones. Let me see. A Silva says, I borrowed my brother's i3 and it was such a mind shift from my Fiesta ST. He agrees I have the more fun car. I'd love to try an i3. That'd be very fun, but it's cool your brother has one. Justin says, hey Matt, hope your weekend is going well. Thoughts on the Honda Prologue? I've not driven it. Pricing to me seems a little off. I mean, what is it? There's like 2 trims. The one is like high 40s, like 49, and the other one's like 59, I think. To me, it's too expensive. When you look at the other stuff out there that, especially from like Hyundai and Kia, that charges faster, that, is faster. I don't know. I think Prologue's going to have an uphill battle. I didn't get invited on the media drive, so I have not reviewed it. I'm sure I will be offered one as a press vehicle, but I'm not going to go out of my way to honestly review it because I feel like no one's going to be interested in that, especially now with the Ultium thing attached to it and the iffiness around that platform with the infotainment and stuff. Hopefully that's an isolated thing to the Blazer, but I don't know. I don't know how Prologue is going to do, and I feel like on this channel, especially where not everyone, but most people aren't into the EV reviews. I'm going to really, that's one of the things I've been focusing on this year, is trying to do less EV stuff unless I'm convinced that it's going to get good views. I'm not convinced the Prologue is going to get good views. So I'm actually going to probably avoid reviewing it, to be totally honest, because I'm not wasting my time with stuff that's going to get a few thousand views. If I can avoid it, obviously there's a gamble with everything, but if there's stuff that I know is pretty guaranteed to not get good views, I'm just going to be like, sorry, I don't care who it upsets, but like, I'm not going to spend my time because it takes so much time to do these videos and I'm not going to waste it for 3,000 views or something. Luke says, my favorite trim level is usually the mid-grade XLEs for Toyotas, XLTs for Ford trucks, and EX for Honda, SCL and the Hyundai, etc. Yeah, I think usually those are the best value ones. That's why those ones typically do sell the best, because it's kind of got the, everything everyone needs, and, it still has some nice stuff on it, but it's not, crazy over the top. And I'd love to do more of that mid-grade stuff for sure. Joe says, what kind of steak do you like and what's the preferred temp? Also have any tips and tricks on starting a channel that does base only vehicle reviews? Consistency is the thing that I've found as far as doing the channel stuff. But that's a good one, Joe. But as far as steak, so I will say I actually had the most probably one of the most amazing steaks of my life, actually, on this Lexus GX event we were on. Usually they don't there's some of these events where like we have like basically wedding food where it's like a buffet style thing of like, sure, we're having like, little steaks, we're having little like, salmon or something like that, but it's never like anything fancy. There's a few times where, they really do go fancy or they do something really cool. But on this Lexus event, only for our wave, the last wave before they were done doing the whole GX drive, which they were doing for like over a week, there is a Wagyu, I might have said it wrong, but a Wagyu steak that they flew in some chef to like cook it, and it was one of the most delicious pieces of meat I think I've probably ever had in my life. It was so good. And that one was pretty much like I'd say medium rare or medium. I usually like my steaks medium, is what I usually say. Sometimes medium well, depending on how confident I am in the I guess the ability of the steak to actually be good, because I don't love stuff when it's super gummy. So I usually like it, a little bit maybe more done than some people, but I'm usually in the medium camp, I'd say, which probably tells you everything you need to know about my steak preferences. I'm not a connoisseur, because I know it seems like the utmost experts basically just want you to walk the raw piece of steak past the grill. But I like a little bit of temp in it, but I definitely don't like a well done steak either. And Raphael says the server engineer that sits right behind me got on the waiting list for an Emira. I'm looking forward to driving it once he gets it. Nice. Well, yeah, congrats. Hopefully that'll be great. Again, seems like a great vehicle, and I like that it's got a Toyota supercharged V6 in it, at least for the one version. It seems like it'd be an amazing car, and I'm glad that people are like excited about it and supporting it, because I think Porsche is gonna be fine. We don't need to help support Porsche like they're. I mean, I do support Porsche; they're great, but like I like seeing the underdog kind of get some love as well, and so I'm really happy that some people are choosing Emiras over Caymans. Frosty says, hey, Matt, hope you and your family are doing well. What is your favorite plug-in hybrid? Thanks, Frosty. And favorite plug-in hybrid are the Primes from Toyota. I love the Prius Prime that I reviewed this past year. RAV4 Prime is definitely my favorite out of all the plug-in hybrid stuff out there. Beyond the Toyota stuff, I was actually really surprised by the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid that I reviewed late last year. That was actually a really close runner-up to the RAV4 Prime in my mind. And so, especially considering how hard it is to get a RAV4 Prime and, the really, high prices for them still, I think Mitsubishi Outlander would probably actually be what I would buy in a realistic, world of spending my own money, because it's just so good. I was so impressed with that car. So I think that would definitely be that. But if I'm going for sedans, Prius Prime is really unmatched in my mind. There's really hardly anything else as far as plug-in hybrid sedans anyway, but Prius Prime is so good for what it is. When I first reviewed that, I was kind of tempted. Like, I'm not into project cars, but I was really inspired to like make a Prius Prime build, which probably would have been a horrible recipe for a build series. But I want to push that platform. Like, I would love to like give it good handling, give it like more power, because it's like NA power, so like just build out the NA motor and still have the electric thing do its thing. I don't know, and I think it looks really cool. Like, if I were just like spending someone else's money and could just like be a creative, I would be like, hey, let's like build a Prius Prime for fun. I think that would be like actually really exciting for me and probably 5 other people. But that would be definitely the way I'd go as far as sedans. I love the Prius Prime. Which is insane to say, because I would have never said that in a million years 5 years ago, but here we are. And let me see. So Luke says, any chance you do a trial run of replacing weekly updates with live weekly updates? It may happen if I get to a point, or if I'm just in a situation in a current week where I don't have the time to do a weekly update. There may actually be, with the way my travel's looking for March, there may be a week in March where I end up trying that. It would just be a different thing, because it would not be a Q&A. It would just be basically me just being like, hitting live and then just talking and going through like a weekly update, and probably not getting to questions till after that, and probably keeping the questions pretty short, and just to try and keep the video 30 minutes or less, so probably just try and, it wouldn't be the same as these where I'm actually able to interact with you guys as much. It'd probably be more like most other YouTubers live streams where they ignore people, which is insane to me, but they just ignore everyone and just like ramble and say what they want to say, and then like be like, okay, bye. And they ignore super chats and they ignore all this stuff. It's like insane the way everyone else does live streams to me. But yeah, so but I think I may try a live weekly update at some point here. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Trent Car Guy says rentals are fastest cars, can confirm. Yeah, it's definitely seems to be the experience with everyone. So we are over time. I completely lost track of time. I was gonna end this around the 2-hour mark here, but I'm gonna get caught up in the other member questions and we'll sign off. But let me see. So Ace of Spades says prepare for 100 Taylor Swift commercials. Could be. We will see what happens on the Super Bowl here. And Raphael says, I don't get it. Why does YouTube dislike people that post on YouTube? You'd think they'd push everyone out to get viewers. I think that, they just, the algorithm just, they craft it to, do what they think is in the best interest of the viewer, because they want you guys to stay on YouTube as long as possible, and so if, a YouTuber is just, even for example, just doing end cards better. Like, end cards are really powerful. Those are the things, the little, pop-up boxes that come up at the end of the video for anyone who's not familiar with the lingo. like they want you to link sessions. So like if another YouTuber is really good at having people be like, and so that's my thoughts on this thing. Now check out this next one and keep on watching. And like if you can successfully do that, then YouTube like, loves you even more because like, oh sweet, this person has now been sitting on YouTube for 5 hours. Obviously that's not healthy. I'm not suggesting anyone sit on YouTube for 5 hours a day, but like if another YouTuber is doing that kind of thing and keeping their watch sessions for their viewers longer than others, that also can send a thing like, hey, we should push this guy because they're really keeping everyone sucked into YouTube and keep them addicted to it. It's really terrible with the way social media is. It really is about just like the more content you consume, and it's not healthy. So it's obviously I'm part of the problem, I guess, but it's just not great. So I think the way the algorithm is set up is just designed to be unhealthy in general, and so part of that is promoting long watch sessions, and just people just being constantly glued to YouTube. And that's why vloggers are very popular, daily vloggers, daily uploads. If you're keeping people coming back every single day, and I mean, I'm trying that here with the live clips and stuff, but if you keep people coming to YouTube every day, YouTube likes that, it seems. And that's why the daily uploaders have grown faster. And that's just the way everything's set up. So I think it's, YouTube wants to push everyone. They're happy to get anyone on YouTube for any reason. But, if you're a more reliable promoter of getting people onto the platform and keeping them on the platform, then YouTube's going to favor those people just because they think that those people are entertaining people better and they want to push the best to the top. So that's kind of, I think, again, they really swear up and down that it is all about the viewer experience and, the signals that they can get from viewers to them send signals that, okay, this person's really happy because they're liking it, because they're commenting, because like one of the things they're really starting to do more and more of, I don't know how many of you have seen this, but the surveys that they now do, they will do a survey after you've watched a video, maybe a day or so later or something like, hey, you watched this video yesterday. How does this one compare to the other videos you watched? Has it been better? Has it been worse? And that's really a huge indicator now as well of, if your videos get good reviews, then, that really helps you. So it's all about just satisfaction. They want you guys to really be happy and be, obsessed with watching YouTube videos basically. So, that's kind of, the thing that separates the top ones from the less than top ones. So let me see. Okay. Luke saying Powerline was about the copper theft. Sorry, I missed that, Luke. Yeah. So yeah, I keep hearing that off and on about copper theft being more and more of a thing here. And B. Mitchell said, drove my publisher's 2000 Viper ACR coupe. All you have to remember is there is no nanny state electronics to save your bacon. You respect it. It respects you. With that in mind, it's a hoot. Yeah, so that's good. I mean, I think I've heard about snap oversteer and stuff where it can maybe be like, you're not driving a complete idiot, but you push it just a little too much and it just kind of completely like takes you by surprise. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I would definitely not push it if I were ever to review one. I would just kind of, very, very respectfully drive it and, just walk away after that. But yeah. And Justin says, I like 9 p.m. Good time to wind down. I kind of feel the same way. I do really like the later time. I think it's kind of a nice thing. I know, again, doesn't work for everyone. Doesn't work for the European viewers, but I feel like for those of us here, on the East Coast and even, West Coast, it is kind of dinner time. So maybe it works, a little bit okay for them too. But let me see. Two says, family, the basement is your family. Yep. I always got to take care of all the families. Truck Car Guy, let me see. He says, don't worry, I'll send mine when I remember to send an email. Yeah, I'd love to showcase your car in the member car of the week thing. So definitely send it over when you get a chance. And Raphael says he'll send a pic of his as well. The snow piles around here show how much snow we get during that storm, got during that storm. Hopefully it didn't get hammered too badly here. And hopefully everyone's getting a shorter winter like we've been seeing, at least here in PA. And Bradley says, how far in advance do you start car shopping for your next car? My Lexus ES lease is up in November. It depends on what kind of car you're searching for. Like a lot of these cars, that have wait lists and stuff, for some of that stuff, I'd be like, getting on the wait list now. If it's something it's not going to be, a long wait list or any kind of tough car to get, then, you can start shopping in November. It just comes down to your personal, views on that. my personal thing, I mean, I'm always car shopping, so I'm always like, I wonder, like, what I'm gonna do, like our Mach-E, like that lease will be up in 2.5 years. So I'm like already probably being like, okay, what's the new stuff coming in like 2026 that might be kind of interesting, or like, what other things, might be of interest to us at that point in time. And, so there's always that kind of thing. Even the Bullitt, which I don't want to sell the Bullitt, but I always like having like backup plans of being like, if I were to sell the Bullitt, if I had to sell the Bullitt, what are my plan B's and C's? And that's why I'm looking up old BRZs. I'm looking up, all kinds of other stuff to, kind of always have a running list of like, here's what I would do if I, was doing X, Y, and Z, or I had to do this thing or that thing. So yeah, it just comes down to your preference there. But I like being prepared. So I'd say, be prepared, and that gives you a lot of time to do lots of research, understand the market of whatever vehicle it is you're looking for, what are normal prices, what are abnormal prices, and really gives you a lot of time to shop around there. Let me see. Luke says, I'll be honest, I watched Auto Buyer's Guide first, you second, Redline Reviews third, TFL fourth, and Ratings Rides fifth. Well, thanks for watching all of this. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the honesty. Yeah, I'm always looking to improve. And so if there's anything you guys ever see that, could be an improvement, that doesn't require a ton of extra time and effort, because again, I'm just so maxed out. But that's definitely stuff I'm always looking to improve. And Kyle says, so late, sorry, I couldn't log into YouTube. Oh, it's all good. Thanks for joining in, Kyle. I appreciate it, and for the giftings as well. Let me see. So, all right, Jordan, thank you so much for the super chat. He says EV trumps at, or which one is the top? I'm guessing is Tesla or Hyundai is the question there. So yeah, they all have their pros and cons. I can go into that for a while, but personally, I'm more impressed with Hyundai's stuff. Build quality is better in my opinion. I like that they have CarPlay. I like that they have gauge clusters, and they don't force you to look into the center of the screen to see how fast you're going, all that kind of stuff. So for me, Hyundais typically are going to be the ones that I'm going to prefer over the Teslas. Teslas have their advantages. They have some nice things about them for sure. But yeah, I think for me it's Hyundai for sure in most cases. And let me see. So Joe says, walk the raw piece of steak past the grill. That was good. I agree. Gumming is certainly not ideal. Depends on the cut, it seems, but some rare steaks are better than others. Yeah, and I've had some good ones before too, but it seems like if I go a little too rare, then I end up regretting it typically. So I usually try and again stay medium, stay kind of middle of the road there. A Silva says, everyday driver took the new Prius, changed the wheels and tires, and took it around a racetrack. Would be interested to see a build series in the future for that platform. Yeah, I saw that actually came up in my recommended feed, and I added that to my watch later playlist. I will watch that, but I was like, yes, someone actually modded a Prius. I want to see that. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and watch that one just yet, but I'm glad someone did it. And yeah, thanks for bringing that up. For anyone else that is, one of the handful of other people that might be curious about that, definitely, I guess check out their video. Sounds like it's a good time. And Caleb says, I've heard a good channel gets 10 years. And I mean, I guess that's, mine's run its course for sure. It's been well over 10 years here, and we'll see how much longer it lasts. But anyway, we are 15 minutes over here, but I'm glad I was able to catch up on all the member comments, and thank you all so much for hanging out and joining. And I apologize again to anyone who I wasn't able to answer the questions here. Definitely make sure you have your membership gifting turned on to get a membership gift if it's something you're not able to do on your own in the future. And definitely, if you ever have any other questions, feel free to send me a message on any of the social media stuff. I got all the links in the description there. Feel free to send me a message if you'd like your question answered as well. I will definitely make sure I get back to it at some point here. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Have a great week here this week. And yeah, stay tuned for more good stuff here. And yeah, I'm going to be working my hardest here to get more of those live flow clips out. Thanks for all the great questions here tonight. I'm sure we'll put some of those into some future little snippets as well. But anyway, have a great week, everyone. And I'll see you guys again on Saturday. Not going to compete with the Super Bowl. I'm going to do it on Saturday next week for those of you who want to join in next time. And anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and have a great week. Take care.